Okay, folks, we are live, and Azrael has donned his battle headphones for reasons that we've privately shared with Chris of Infinitale Chronicles. We've just done a bit of green room chat, and now it is time for this. Oh, yes, I love it when we do that. Something a bit dramatic. So here we are, folks. Azrael's concentrating. He's become a human condenser, so we can just listen to the valued expertise of Chris and Infinitale Chronicles, The War of the Trees. We've done our trailer, and next we're going to do a bit of the old presentational thing. It is the 5 Pillars of Storytelling Live, Azrael, Infinitale Chronicles. Art, comics, movies, games, and toys are what we talk about here. It's Sunday, the 4th of May. We hope we are in tune with space and time. Infinitale Chronicles is what we're going to be talking about, The War of the Trees, Book 2. It's 7 p.m. in Greenwich Mean Time, and we love that little profile picture of Infinitale Chronicles. So sweet. And here we go next. It's the host introduction. All right, it's on. Here we go. Hello there. Welcome to the 5 Pillars of Storytelling Live, where we talk art, comics, movies, games, and toys. I'm your host, Azrael, and my secret identity is Carl Prometheus, storyteller, artist, and promoter of indie creators, indie comics, and indie comic community. We try to do our bit to help grow the community, to create a force magnifier. Our style is universal. We can be watched by creative families, so we mind our P's and Q's in the language we use, because we want creative families to be able to share this show with, well, it's a kind of, want to create like a knowledge base. Creative adults and the creative younglings can all watch along, and we can learn about indie comics together, you know, like all ages comics, that sort of vibe, or Disney back when you could actually have a child take from it and an adult take from it and still enjoy it together. Inspiring quote. Well, our motto is to listen, learn, and share. Inspiration in itself. But inspiring quote is from the legendary one. Comics are an international language. They can cross boundaries and generations. Comics are a bridge between all cultures, he says, looking into the little green light on his computer to create that audience host bond. And that quote was by Azuma Tezuka. And he also said another interesting quote. We are now living in the age of comics as air. Very, very, shall I say, we would say prescient for the way indie comics are exploding at the moment. Guest introduction is Infinitales Chronicles. We always do a bit of prose on the show for people on the show. Infinitales Chronicles 1 is for sale on Amazon. That's the one that has been done. And we're proud to say that we backed that yesterday. Ooh. We just don't do that often. I think it was the first time we thought we were going to back this before he comes on the show. We just thought £7 and you've got 52, 54 pages. Got to do it, man. And let's see what all this Infinitale Chronicles hype is all about. So Infinitales Chronicles is an independently produced epic fantasy comic book series, a product of visionary progressive thinking and expressive fantasy. Book 1 is available on Amazon, as we just said. Book 2, Indiegogo campaign, is coming soon, ready to debut on the one and only Michael Bancroft's own show, where he celebrates the launches of independent comic books. We say a big welcome to Infinitale Chronicles and Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem, Chris. No, it's good to have you along. I mean, funnily enough, we before we get into this next slide, we enjoyed speaking to you on the Immortal Rising show, and we suddenly thought, hang on a minute, we know this guy. His work's been with us for the last year or so. We've been doing promo for it. We've kept an eye on it. We've been to his X Space. We've been to his crowdfunder. We've had a look at the book. He's been in our indie comic promos. And we're thinking, hang on, we know that's Infinitale Chronicles, the one. You know, when you suddenly realise that you've known this person, and just right next to it, thought, oh, it's him. So anyway, it was great to realise that. So I think, got to have him on the show. You know what I mean? Because we like your feisty, combative, shall I say, robust sense of promoing. You know, you're not frightened of a little bit of friction, getting your shoulder out there. And you know, we know what we say is with it. It's not a problem if people in the indie comics community with the different tribes have a bit of friction. That's good. That's healthy. That shows a bit of growth, and it shows that we're all trying our best to find our plot and our space in the wild frontier in the comics. So we look at these things and we smile gently and think, yeah, it's good to see people with a bit of moxie getting out there, you know. So we've got to say, we always do like the compliments on this show. We try to keep things very, very positive. We don't get involved in drama, anything like that. Not that kind of drama. We like to keep the drama to be about the person and what's inside the comics. You know, we have a very positive message here at the 5 Pillars of Storytelling. So we saw this on your website. We thought this was gorgeous. What a portal. And we say a portal to Infinitale Chronicles. And so we've got to do a bit of movie voice for this. Let's just zoom on this. We can read the text. Chronicling the adventures of heroes throughout generations of conflict. Infinitale Chronicles is a graphic novel series of swords and sorcery. The first tale, known as the War of the Trees, tells of a cataclysmic war between the Elva people and the Titanic gods. The Elvas learn of their true origins and rediscover their severed connections with magic. Can they defy the impending extinction? Or will theirs be a cautionary tale for those who come after them? All right, Chris, are you ready for the big 5 questions?
Sure.
Let's do it. Let's get in there. We've got a progressive thinker on the show. And if you've got your book on Amazon, and you've got a website, you've got to go to the website and just give you a gorgeous portal, tasty preview there. If you got to go there, we have. And if he's got his book on Amazon, definitely progressive thinker. So the first of the big 5 questions, Chris, is who is Infinitales Chronicles? Storytelling, influences, comic journey, music, movies. Tell us, hit us.
Who am I? Well, let's see. My name's Chris Fisk. I grew up in southern New Hampshire in the United States. I started the Infinitale Chronicles as a kind of an attempt to compensate for my lack of finances playing Dungeons and Dragons at the local library. We couldn't afford all the books, so I started improvising and making my own. And eventually, I thought, you know, what the heck? I'll just make my own game series. Mm-hmm. And Infinitale Chronicles is actually the chronicled game sessions of those tabletop role-playing games. Mm-hmm. So I figured that would be kind of a cool kind of intro into our universe to show kind of those who played before, kind of setting the foundation, and then once the story or the history is defined, we can provide the game itself or the sandbox for players to kind of make their own stories within it. Because, you know, Infinitale is the portmanteau of infinite and tale. The idea is that it's just this endless story that you can keep contributing to.
Yes, I see. So, you've that RPG background thing is something that's come up before with other special guests. And we have to say, with John Burrow, he talks about it often on his on live show over at John's Longbox. And it's that sense of structure in terms of having a foundational of a cosmology, a universe, having a map, having character sheets, you know, with stats and backgrounds, and it gives everything a sense of structure and a foundation, and then you've got the idea of campaigns, which are just like a series. You can have a four campaign, a 6, 8, 10, 12, whatever the games master decides, really, whatever they've planned out. But it's almost like the equivalent of having indie comics 1 to 4 or 1 to 6, 1, 8, 10, 12. There's that kind of almost parity of structure, the sense of having everything worked out in terms of research and development, and almost like planning in a sense. What do you think?
Oh yeah, well, so when I started the gaming system at the library, because the librarian was actually doing me a rather large favor. because my high school kind of treated all of us like criminals. They basically said you had to have 140 hours of community service to pass, or you're yeah. So it was like, oh great, what do I do if I have like a job? Like, do I work pro bono? Like, what's going on here? So the librarian said, you know what, if you babysit the community kids, we can let them, basically be your little guinea pigs for your test game. And I'll give you all the community service hours you need. And I ended up going through 4 years of that. And then it kind of blossomed into things outside of high school. And then eventually, sadly, I put it all away for a time as I moved around the world. I lived in Japan, Australia, parts of California. I worked as a video game designer.
And it's in Japan. Tell us a little bit about that before you get into the rest of your overall background.
Oh, sure. What, living in Japan?
Well, Japan, yeah, and Australia. I mean, they're two substantial. Well, Japan's a huge comic market, and we know, we're just teasing out the rest of the production we planned for you. Presentation tonight is that you're doing a manga version for your next campaign. So it kind of, the connection would be worth pulling on that thread a little bit, Chris.
Hi, so this, yes, I definitely have a kind of a heavy influence from my time in Japan and my appreciation of the culture there. There's a lot of things that I kind of, I guess, gleaned from my time in various countries. Basically, I tried to kind of take things respectfully. I know there's that whole appropriation thing and all that, but it's like, I looked at like our markets, especially in the indie sphere, and I looked at like how is manga exploding, like especially with the younger groups. Like, I have a nephew who's just turned 20, and like he's fully up to his nose in manga and in anime and all that stuff. And I was like, well, what about it is so appealing? And then I looked at kind of how manga is made in Japan, and we in the West, we're kind of lucky in the sense that we've seen what has been kind of bubbled up to the top. But manga is very fail quickly, meaning that there's so much manga that we just never see here outside of Japan, because there's just so much of it that's being thrown at the wall essentially to see what sticks. And then they kind of pulled kind of the best parts of that, the survival of the fittest, so to speak. And that's what we get. We get the, it's cheaper to make, it's faster to get out the door. It's almost like attrition versus the long, like, I'm going to take 10 years to make one book and it's going to be perfect on launch day. It's more of like a refinement, excuse me, rather than, and I kind of looked at that as, well, how could I do that with, how could I attempt to capture some of that market? How could I attract some of these younger readers? And I thought, well, I'll do a manga, or at least I'll try, and I'm not saying the book is an authentic manga, because A, I'm not Japanese, and B, my literacy in Japanese is very low. So the onomatopoeia is in Japanese in the manga edition, but all the dialogue is in English.
Yeah. So you've learned a lot, and you've tried to infuse from Japan and probably other countries as well, even if you don't realize it, maybe subconsciously. We're talking about that with Heather Veely the other week, actually. Sometimes we don't even see it, but sometimes, it is with human beings, we can't see it, but people on the other side can, because that's why us humans need other humans to see. Yeah. And we like the fact that you're trying to take that bit of philosophy from each country that you've lived in, Chris, and it's distilled in there, just as the culture is distilled. You're distilling Chris by these experiences, and that's been infused into your product. That might explain some of your product's popularity, in that you have, perhaps, whether you realize it or not, you're bringing maybe a cosmopolitan flavor to your version of fantasy. Just what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely I definitely appreciate the kind of the cultures that I've borrowed from. Because when I was in the library, back in the 90s, when I first started this, we didn't have Google. So whatever information we had, you had to work for it. And, anybody that's remembered the Dewey Decimal System and that archaic mess can remember delving the depths of bookshelves and all this stuff to find all this information. And the thing that I learned as a, at the time it was a dungeon master, but in the Infinitale gaming universe, we call him the narrator. is that the world is only as big as the narrator or the dungeon master. Like, if you have players that know more than you, suddenly things become very limiting. So as a let's just say I wasn't a very intelligent kid, but I managed to grab every book I could on every subject possible when I was researching for the game and the stories. And I looked at the way Dungeons and Dragons kind of leveraged a lot of Tolkien's work. And I thought, rather than kind of, being a copy of a copy, I want to see what Tolkien looked at. I want to see what inspired this philologist to make one of the most, I would say the ultimate fantasy story. And, I came across things like the Welsh Mabinogia, it's actually where we got the War of the Trees from, the Cad Gatho, which is, the story about like an animated forest, basically a magically animated forest that fights. There's all sorts of fun stuff with that. But I looked at like the origins of folklore, and one question that kept coming back was like, how do you have these like a lot of these, especially European cultures, have like the concept of the elf, the quintessential fantasy elf. There's the tall ones of Tolkien, the short ones of, we've got the Nissers, the Tomtar, like all this stuff. And it's like, well, what about like the origins? Like we hear about them, but like, what about how they came about? And I thought, well, why don't I take a crack at that? And so I looked up things from like the Volsung Saga, which is the Icelandic Eddas written by, I think it was Snorri Sturluson, like a big Viking heroic kind of insights into Norse mythology. I looked up the Kalevala, which was the Finnish folklore. I even looked at, leveraged some of my own kind of Korean background in there as well. And I kind of fused it together to make something that I hope is a compelling story. In fact, the War of the Trees is actually Plato's allegory of the cave, or at least it's my take on it. So
Plato's allegory of the caves, very, very interesting. So there's legends, there's folklore, there's cosmopolitan living around the world. So it's almost like a kind of multi-pantheon infusion. To a degree, in terms of influences, Look, we occasionally sneak this in. It's a cheeky kind of question, but it's from Brian. Is it, what's his name? Toledo. I can remember his name, but he does Lady Death. And he's one of the how-to sessions he did in the last 2 or 3 years, back when the thing happened, which we don't talk about around here. But what's interesting is how to create stuff came online. The YouTube became this great big vessel for learning. When people stopped and realized, hang on, I don't have to go back to the 9 to 5. I can do something completely different. And Brian Toledo, I think he basically said, our business plan is founded on this kind of almost music philosophy of, he's into a given heavy metal band. So we asked ourselves the question, if my business plan could be anything, it'd be this heavy metal band. And that's who we are. That's who we project when we go out to create our product, and we create and relate to our audience. So you can tell they've got the heavy metal target audience. It's you've got the kind of Lady Death kind of heavy metal look, grunge and black, and it's very voluptuous, and it's death, and it's big swords, etc. If you could be any band that projects your business model, and Infinitale Chronicles has a branding, what band or music would it be, Chris?
Well, that's a tough one. I would probably say John Williams Orchestra.
That is a perfect 10 out of 10 answer, Chris. You don't have to tell me anymore, because what did Lucas say about New Hope and John Williams? He said it was the only aspect of the movie's original production that exceeded his expectations.
Oh, wow.
So that's a good influence to have. Absolutely. Nice. So very interesting. Then you've got your storytelling influence there, you've got your music, and kind of, what's your favorite movie?
Let's see, favorite movie. Well, that's a tough one. There's a lot of them. I would say
ones, maybe 2 or 3 or something like that. You think it's hard to pick sometimes, isn't it?
Well, so like, it's not a feel-good movie by any stretch of the imagination. No. but it is the only movie, as somebody that has watched horror movies his whole life, like I was 5 years old when I saw the Nightmare on Elm Street series, all that stuff. But like none of that stuff ever affected me. The only movie that ever gave me nightmares, and these nightmares persisted for months, was Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, the Normandy beach scene. I don't know. Maybe in past life I was one of those bodies on the beach. I don't know. But that movie traumatized me, and I appreciate that. It's one of those things where it's art. You're not. I didn't feel good coming out of it, but it left a major impact on me. So there's that, and I know this is going to make me sound like a Philistine, but the Lord of the Rings trilogy, you know, the extended editions and all that stuff, I actually prefer Philippa Boyan's reinterpretations of some of the elements of the Lord of the Rings books that she adapted into the screenplay. I don't know. I know that's touching on hollow ground, but like there were parts.
Why do you feel that way? And talk about the parts like you're about to start there. We're curious. No, we if you've got a reason why you like something, let's look on that little nuance of why that's you're just taking that little bit.
Well, so Tolkien was clearly an English professor. You know, we've all had them, the dissertations. You know, I wouldn't say it's bloviation, but at the same time, there is a lot of words, like an economy of words, that could probably be reduced to kind of get to the point of certain things. And I have a feeling that if the Lord of the Rings was a wiki article, it would be sentences of hyperlinks. Because there would be tangents that they would go off on, and it's as somebody that has the whole ADD and all that stuff, even though I'm a Gen Xer, I still seem to have not been able to escape that. I find that veering off on multi-page tangents can kind of distract from a story, and I understand that like there needs to be explanations on things or whatever, but like when Tolkien was telling the Lord of the Rings, he created a world and he was kind of a guide explaining what this world was to us. So there are a lot of times where there wasn't any room for like inference or like, the ability for the readers to interpret things, because Tolkien knew every exact detail of everything and laid it out for you. And one of the things that Philippa Boyens did was obviously, and again, this makes me a Philistine, was kind of removed elements that didn't progress the story. It was like, what is the story? What are the main key points? And how do I keep this going for, the allotted film time? And unfortunately, there goes Tom Bombadil, the Barrow-wights, all that stuff, the Willow. But like, it also kind of, and again, I'm not trying to disrespect Tolkien here, but like, there were almost contradictory parts, or at least my interpretation of them were contradictory parts, with characters like Faramir, who we've established that the hobbits are a race of beings that have no ambition. They're the rural farmers essentially, and they're happy with their way of life, and they don't bother with much of that adventuring stuff, and they don't like to push boundaries or go beyond their comfort zones. So the temptations of the ring were very, very weak on them. Like Smeagol was probably the only one that really succumbed to it, and obviously Bilbo, but it took hundreds of years for that erosion to occur. And they're trying to like Tolkien established that this is why Frodo was the ideal ring bearer, is because he was a hobbit and he didn't have these major ambitions and all this stuff, and he and Sam bore this burden all the way to its final destination. But yet, in the same sense, we get introduced to Faramir, and he describes his encounter with the ring, and he literally says it's a very common-looking ring and nothing of interest. If I saw it on the side of the road, I wouldn't even expend effort to bend down and pick it up. And it's like, you just established that the ring is this all-encompassing seduction that no human can withstand. Like, so
the duality of nature.
Yeah, but it's like we know Faramir is a good guy. We know he's a very virtuous person. But like when Philippa Boyens rewrote him, she wrote in the film that he too was tempted by it. He too could not. He didn't succumb to the temptation, but at the same sense, she still reinforced what Tolkien's original point was, that the ring was this this crux, this all-encompassing a sense of temptation. So it kind of played out better for me, and I think that's why I loved the film so much. Even though, you know, as a nerd that read the books, it's like, oh well, that's not right, that's incorrect.
Well, for us, it was The Name of the Rose. Obviously, we watched The Name of the Rose.
Oh.
Then, a guiding star supplied us with the book by Umberto Eco. And then you get into the deep politics of the religion and all that business, and just the level of detail, which is a truism for perhaps for most or any book, yeah. And then you go back and watch the movie with Sean Connery in it, and you still enjoy it, but it feels almost like an empty apple.
Yeah,
you know, which it doesn't spoil the movie as such, but you've got the time and space to go so much deeper in a book. I mean, while that is the case, books will never ever go out of fashion. So that, in a sense, that's a movies have their strength, and books have a much deeper resonant strength in that regard. You know, to me.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Oh, and just one other thing. What about your comic journey to get to here, to actually want to make a comic, and that we'll go into why in a little bit. But what has been your comic journey?
Well,
in terms of who is.
Well, when I worked in the video game industry, you know, I worked on it. Like, we had this one game. It was on the NBC Universal called Defiance. It was a TV show and a video game. You know, I really loved like kind of a lot of the creative bits that went into that. And it kind of sucked when I left the industry, because I'd been in it for about a decade, and I loved being paid to basically do what I do anyways. So when I left the industry and I went into, I completely switched industries because of the volatility of creative industries right now. I prefer a paycheck over, you know, creative, being creatively satisfied. So I went into a completely different field, cybersecurity. And, you know, I kind of had that empty void of creativity. Like, oh man, like I'm living, but I'm not thriving. You know, I'm not
dying a slow death in something that you don't love doing.
Yeah, too right. so I ended up, you know, I was talking with some of my engineering friends, someone who worked at Blizzard, you know, the Warcraft guys, and I was like, oh man, you know, I want to make a game off of this. You know, that would be my creative endeavor. But I don't know, man. Like, I don't have the resources. I don't have the ability to, you know, wrangle the amount of finances it will require to get something like this off the ground. And my buddy's like, well, why don't you just make a tabletop role-playing game out of this? Like, you've already worked on it, you know, there you go. It's already there. And I was like, you know, maybe I should. But he's like, well, the conversation lent back to World of Warcraft, which was, you know, big moneymaker at the time. And we were like, well, why were people champing at the bit before World of Warcraft even launched? Like, how were people this excited about a product that wasn't even out yet? And it was like, oh, well, because there were previously established products, there were books, there was all this other. People knew the World of Warcraft before they entered the World of Warcraft. And I was like, well, maybe I should do that with Infinitale. You know, make you know, a story, like a novel or something. And then my friend's like, you're an artist, you know, you're artsy. Why don't you go the graphic novel route? You know, make it visual. So I was like, yes, all right. So I had no idea what I was doing. And I originally, you know, I wanted to get into animation, and that's a whole other kind of worms. But, you know, I had taken classes, Project Greenlight here in Boston, doing the whole screenwriting seminars and all that stuff. So I wrote an entire screenplay for the Infinitale Chronicles, and it turned into something that was like, basically, like it had to have been like a 100-episode series. Like, it was just so grandiose and obscenely out of scope. And I didn't know how to make this into a book, so I approached this guy in California who said, yes, I can help you with this. The two of us kind of put our heads together and winnowed down the screenplay into a more manageable comic book script format. And he's like, you know, even with everything, like, you know, honed down to its basics, you got about 10 books here. And I was like, all right, well, there we go. There's a 10-book series. Yep.
It's almost like that role-playing campaign kind of background is kind of filtering through again.
Oh, yeah. Like, all of the characters in the Infinitale Chronicles, or at least especially the War of the Trees saga, they're all players. Like Aisling here, one of our main heroines, she was played by one of my friends, and she actually named her daughter Aisling, which was kind of cool.
I tell you what, I think that's a lovely segue to get in there to our next slide. Let's do it. What does Infinitale Chronicles create? So what do you create? I think we're looking at a graphic novel here.
Mm-hmm.
We're showing an elevator with you, or we're coming to your comic book convention table. Hit us with the elevator pitch, please.
Sure. If you're a fan of epic fantasy, action and adventure, especially stories that harken back to the 90s fantasy and anime, things like the Record of Lodoss Saga, you'll definitely love the Infinitale Chronicles. It borrows heavily from various world folklore, and the story focuses, or I should say the story begins with our primary protagonists, the Elva people, and they've learned after an ageless paradise that they're actually in a gilded cage of oppression, and they've been suffocated by this adherence to an unquestionable dogma, and now one single act of defiance has kind of knocked over the house of cards, and now we're seeing its inevitable war.
Now, that sounds very fruity. Chris, I just got to ask a little mini question. Sure. World of Warcraft, did you play it? And what archetype did you play?
Let's see. In the initial vanilla World of Warcraft, I played it was a Night Elf Hunter. And then after a few expansions, I ended up playing a Forsaken Rogue. And then they nerfed rogues, and I got upset.
Oh, they did. They did the damage to rogues. They were never the same afterwards. They played great, and then I don't know what they did, but they certainly nerfed it in terms of playability. They did it to all the ATs. And we were a Death Knight. We liked the ice tank. The ice scrapper. But the one that really stole our heart was the Blood Death Knight with the blood tentacle. It's a universal show. We won't go into it. But that's just to say the villains were certainly going down after that. Or the Blood Death Knight. And there's a pestilence one as well, where you got little fleas wandering around, this kind of like bio pestilence sword. But we also did take quite nicely to the Demon Hunter, the scrapper version of it with the across the battlefield thing. Absolutely brutal, man. So anyway, moving swiftly on, let's get into this. The cover. Tell us about this number one. We backed this. We suddenly thought, hang on a minute, £7. It's on Amazon. It's got cheap UK shipping, so we don't have to worry about it coming from somewhere over there in the world and getting hammered on shipping. It's the artwork's cool. It's got, for me, I played Warcraft. I've watched Tolkien movies. I thought I can get into this. He's gonna be a guest on our show. I've seen him around the kind of indie comic sphere for the last 2 years. I thought he's coming on the show. Let's back this. And we thought, let's do it. And we've been to your website as well, and we thought 50 odd plus pages for £7. And I thought, And while we were there, actually, we picked up. Finally got a copy of Radiant Black, which was on Amazon somehow. So we managed to get a copy of that. And we also picked up, what else? Mage by Matt Wagner. After Heather Veely schooled us about how he got his bat from a girl. So we thought, we've got to, I'm not having that. Well, we actually did look at Mage back in the day at Sheffield Space Centre, a Yorkshire comic shop back in the day, and we saw it. I thought, I'm not sure about this. When you're Team Marvel or Team DC only, and you don't see the indie comics like Nexus by Steve Rudin that can offer a lot. You get into this tunnel thinking. But now we're on a chat show with Chris talking about indie comics. What do you say, huh? After Crisis on Infinite Earths and after Heroes Reborn from DC and Marvel, we were out, and luckily Gary Spencer Miller's Strangehaven indie comic book saved us. Iron Man was the last book we were hanging on by probably a fingernail. Right, tell us about this cover then, sir.
Sure. So this is the retail edition cover done by artist Nelia Hale. The original covers, I have a strong policy where at least one version of the book, the original version, must always include art from the interior artists. I'm not as a backer, as a customer as well, I don't appreciate being, baited and switched. So we actually have 4 covers for book 1, oddly enough. So there was the original cover. Then there were the 2 variant covers that were available on the crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah.
And one by Michelle Hefner and the other one done by Genzo Man, who, if everybody, anybody that's familiar with fantasy art, you know this guy's work. You may not know him, but you know his work. So we ended up. I was like, well, how do I differentiate between the premium editions, the white glove treatment that I give the backers, versus the retail edition? And I don't want to cheapen a retail edition, but at the same time, if you spent X amount of money on backing, you should be receiving the superior product, so to speak. And I reached out to Nelia on Twitter, and she was gracious enough to agree to help me make a cover for this. And the story on the cover is basically it's kind of the symbolism of the divergent paths that our heroes take. These 2 lovers, this king, or I should say this queen and her king consort, because this is a matriarchal society, kind of have their own separate parallel adventures. Hopefully they'll meet again. We don't know. That's for the books to determine. But we kind of learned at the beginning here, as you can see, her kind of looking to the left, she's looking at these ruins of something, whereas he is looking to the right and he's seeing more of like a campfire and like a forest of some sort. And it kind of shows that they're kind of diverging into 2 separate worlds of sorts. She basically, it's terrible for her, because she essentially sends her, the man that she loves, or the elf that she loves, to his death. Or at least in her opinion, she's like, I can't go and do this, but part of their very, very dogmatic theocratic religion, the weak need to be culled, and she can't show signs of weakness. So she's like, I gotta go. I'm receiving these visions in these dreams telling me that I need to go to this place to save my kid, because the beginning of our story opens where we learned that the Elfar people, these eternally beautiful people who they don't age, they never know the betrayals of the body, they never get sick or anything. They don't really reproduce. They don't have kids. So one day she has a kid. She's pregnant and she has a kid.
I see. And so you've got this duality of roles, duality of paths, duality of destinies, and that the shall I say the tension point in the storyline is whether they will meet again, the not knowing, the longing, the pining for a time when you can be together once more. Yes,
that's correct. Yeah,
I'll tell you what we've got for you is the story, and this is where we get to do our movie voice. The War of the Trees, Book 1, the seminal book in the War of the Trees saga. Second Genesis begins with a royal birth in the Elvar sovereignty of Ter Gordon on the alien world of Esperia. These heavily controlled lands are presided over by oppressive and unforgiving gods. The royal birth has not gone as expected. Complications force the Elva Queen into a fevered slumber filled with strange dreams. As all sons are subject to the lottery for the harvest, misfortune befalls the royal family, and their newborn son is chosen to be among those harvested by the gods.
Yeah.
So that's the story then of Book 1. And you've told us a little bit about Infinitales. You've got, with this forthcoming campaign to be launched on Michael Bancroft's site, we've got the follow-up, Infinitales Book 2. Yeah? The War of the Trees Book 2. Tell me about this cover, please, Chris.
Sure. So as we've seen in the previous book, the queen and her king consort have kind of gone on their own separate paths to trying to solve this issue of rescuing their child from this religious sacrifice. So where one kind of lays a gambit through political intrigue. The other secretly goes out into the wilds and kind of discovers things, or I should say, rediscovers kind of their the truth of their stolen heritage, their buried past, and they learn that they were actually a magical being or beings, and at one point their kind of eternal enemy, the fauns or the Canudi, were these are these like feral beasts essentially that have pillaged their border villages. They do these things called the Wild Hunt, where they call these hordes of animals basically from causing trouble to their villages, and hopefully limiting the population down to a more manageable level. And unfortunately, in the first book, Kaelin, our king consort here, he kind of ends up becoming a prisoner of the Canudi, and or the fauns, and one of them actually speaks their language, and they're like, wait a minute, the animal speaks, what's going on here? And they start learning from this book that they had retrieved from this forbidden city that was kind of told by this vision that the queen had that she was actually supposed to retrieve this book, but instead he went in her stead. And the book is kind of like a second Genesis of sort. It explains their entire origin, how what's really happening. Everything that they've been taught was a lie, and there's also magic in that book. They learned that the original, their original heritage, their original beings were more magically orientated, and these giant, titanic, oppressive deities, the Fovera, are kind of who have lied to them, have kind of stolen the magic for themselves. And they recovered the book, and they start relearning magic. And sometimes, magic isn't a technology. It's not this solidified science where everything is an exact and it's reliable. Magic is a dangerous and esoteric art. And sometimes when you screw things up, you screw them up really badly. And we are witnessing Kaelin here, kind of seeing what happens. So
I tell you what, it's nice, and you can clip me on this, folks, out there in the ether of cyberspace. It's nice to have something, a story, and a creator who's unapologetic about the use of magic, about its characteristics, some predictability, about the legacy nature of it, without waving it away as science. Chris, we knew one day you'd come.
Resagam! No. Yeah. Well, like when I was developing the magic system in my tabletop role playing game.
Go on, we're all ears.
Okay. I was really worried that like magic in Dungeons and Dragons was very mechanical, in the sense that it's very rigid. It was and again, very technological. Like, in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, you had like the +2 toothbrush of plaque fighting, and you had these very reliable things. So when I built the magic system in Infinitale, I looked more like I studied. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I studied like the Jewish Kabbalah, and I looked at like Hermetic teachings, and I was like, oh, we're starting to stray into metaphysical stuff here. But I thought, what if magic was more of an understanding of the proper syntax of the language of creation? Like, what if, like the whole concept of this world is there's this thing called the Zohir, which is a giant crystal that shone in the darkness and it exploded, kind of like the Big Bang Theory. And that's how creation occurred. And we're all kind of particles of this Zohir. So every one of us is all interconnected. Reality, creation, and everything is a series of particles in the air, little motes of creation. And magic is the understanding of being able to impose your own will, your own collection of Zohir upon others, like reaching your hand into the clay of creation and shaping it yourself. But you need to understand how to speak it, how to actually access it, like a password in a computer. So included in the second book here, there's a whole section on all the different magic glyphs. And when so there's two like in the way that it's handled in the game and the way that it's handled in the story slightly differs, but there's this language that was originally spoken by all races of Vesperia, and that language, basically the dragon's words, as they call it, and it was basically the language that you could use with these special glyphs and hand gestures to control how magic works. And it's broken down into kind of like a noun and verb kind of dichotomy, where you have your elements and you have your cantrips, essentially. And you define your elements, things like earth, fire, wind, water, and then they go into things like plants and the mind and the body and all this stuff. And then you have your cantrips, which manipulate it. You have things like I create, I destroy, I control, I change, and you build a sentence called stanzas in this when you're casting your spells. And if you screw those up, if you mismanage or you misplace or mispronounce or do anything, then you botch that spell. And it's not just a matter of fizzle. There's various levels of chaos that are unleashed. The more powerful you become, or the more versed or tainted by the magic around you, because you are basically static. You're by being a spellcaster, by being a magic user, you are disrupting the natural flow of things. So
magical syntax is important, and almost like plugging in a guitar into an amplifier. Make sure there's your earth, otherwise there could be some feedback and kickback. It's consequential magic as well, to the very order of creation.
Exactly. And this is kind of why mortals weren't really intended to toil in things that transcend their understanding, because it's the butterfly effect. One little ripple and the entire thing could go awry. And unfortunately, that's what the Elvar here have to relearn, just how chaotic magic and how dangerous it is. So yeah, and in the back of the book, we've got a list of all of the elements and all of the cantrips, and kind of a little bit of a explanation of how they were kind of founded, because the original language, the dragon's words, were kind of like when magic was kind of in the Wild West. It was the frontier where people basically created spells, and the only spells we know of are the ones from the people who survived creating them. They wrote it down. A lot of the people were driven mad. Some people just never survived their experimentations. So we have a very limited perception of what exactly can be done with this magic. But we learn later on that a big calamity occurs much later in the timeline. And there's this order that is established, the Order of Nemesis, as they call it. And it's where a group of basically enemies got together and said, if we just have this, basically like Wizard Wars or whatever, we're going to end up nuking our planet. We're going to make it uninhabitable and destroy reality. So we need to codify magic. We need to make it more scholastic. We need to make it regulated. So they have their own kind of language, the scholar's speech, which they've applied to the syntax. And they basically have this order of magi who go around basically enforcing this is regulated magic, and if you're unregulated, if you're a hedge wizard or you're a witch or whatever the layman terms are, you are an enemy of the order and need to be stamped out. So that's part of the game mechanics.
That's interesting. So cataclysm and an order of magic to prevent there being another one destroying what's left of post cataclysm cosmology.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, we like the fact that, folks, that Chris has got dragon speak. And when you've got dragon speak, your creator's taking it seriously. And that comes from a place of passion. And he's trusting himself to create, which makes it, and to project it into the marketplace, which makes it easier for us to trust him, because he does have that depth of passion. Now, the story continues, The War of the Trees, Book 2. Following the events of Second Genesis, the paths of our heroes diverge as Queen Aislinn comes to grips with the impending loss of her infant son while maintaining composure at royal court. Her king consort, Caolin, finds himself surrounded by a former enemy with few options. Can this tenuous alliance hold together as a greater threat looms over both factions. Drastic measures must be taken to ensure their son's survival. Queen Aislin's gambit is incredibly risky, but Carolin's toiling with the Book of Dragons may prove to be more perilous. And we've got some interior art. The 4 pages were nice and free comics day. We thought, there we go, and we thought we'll have those for the presentation we're doing on Chris and Infinitale. Tell us about the interior art, please, here, about the artist. And we do like this big, wide-eyed expressionism, and also the very twilight coloring.
Thanks. Yeah. This is so this is the part of the opening scene of book 2, and it's a bit of a flashback as Queen Aisling is explaining to her screaming son, her infant, who's teething or whatever he's doing. She's explaining basically how he'll never know the troubles of those that came before him, and she's basically kind of narrating one of the wild hunts that she had partaken or partook. And what we're seeing here is her leading a charge into a camp of Cernudi, or the Fauns, to basically exterminate them.
I see. Crikey. That sounds perilous and pending drama. Yeah. And so, just as you were saying, Chris, continue. Pray continue.
Yeah. So we see that they've ambushed this camp as you know, as the night goes into morning, and they've pelted the camp's sentries with arrows, taking them out. And as you can see, the 2 Cernudi are saying something in a foreign language. And that's the way the Alvar have always kind of handled it. You know, they're just like, it just sounds like grunts to them. They're just like, you know, they're like, whatever. Oh, yeah. And the thing is you can actually translate that. There's a decoder at the back of the book that gives you all the lines that you can translate into English. And they're basically, the 2 Fauns are basically lamenting that the elves have found them and, you know, cursed this wild hunt. And here we see Aisling leading a charge from her ambush. You know, they're all the crowd of soldiers behind her, all shouting "For Tiri Gothen," as they kind of lunge in and destroy this encampment. And she talks about how we gave no quarter, and you know, in her arrogance, she engages at close range with one of these Cernudi, and they're not as helpless as she thought. And clang, it parries her attack.
Very interesting here. So have we got, you know, you touched up the phrase of a cull earlier. Is this part of what's going on here, Chris? That, you know, populations have to be kept in control. It's part of the kind of blood hunt and of proving the quote unquote elven superiority.
It's in the first panel, it talks about how their religious leaders, the Druids, have said that basically the gods have commanded them to eliminate these creatures from their borders, and they obeyed. You know, unquestioned dogma. So they're like, yep, you know, this is how our religious our dogma has commanded us to do this, and we're not going to question it. So, you know,
question dogma. Well, we know lots of stories about that in the real world, but we move swiftly on to page 3.
Yes. So the queen's parry is met with a swift hoof to the stomach, knocking her helmet off and making her prone to the ground and helpless, about to be basically killed by this club wielding Cernudi, who swings his heavy sword or his heavy club down, and we see the big of blood, and that's when we realize, if we see the surprised look on the Cernudi's face, he's like, "Oi!" And it basically, she explains, fortunately, we were not alone in this attack. And then we see that a weirin, which is a elfin dagger, it looks almost like a tonfa style parallel handled blade, or double blade, like a tonfa or like a nightstick, and it was thrown into his shoulder, basically debilitating his arm, so he couldn't bring down that fatal blow. and we see in the background a green armored knight with another one of those weirins in his hands, kind of like, hey, hey, I just saved your butt. And so this also kind of explains how, in the opening pages, she talks about how a queen will do whatever it takes to protect her people, because again, she's been told that these animals need to be culled because they pose a danger. And it finishes with her basically seizing that opportunity of distraction by grabbing one of her arrows and shoving it through the gullet of the Carnudi, killing him, and she's viciously ending him. And she concludes with, almost a poetic, there's nothing a mother wouldn't do to protect her child. And then the final scene is it kind of moves back to the present, and we see the crying infant, and she's like, "You're all I have left now."
I'll tell you what, not only is she ending him, she's owning him, and we say, that's going to hurt in the morning, son. And I tell you what, you know what our favorite panel is on this page, Chris? It's the one of the Queen, and she's giving it some green eye. She's got the blood splatter over the face. And you know what we're getting? And us, we've played so much World of Warcraft. We are actually Team City of Heroes, actually, from the beginning. But we did kind of do a winding side road into World of Warcraft. We got into it. And our favorite catch from that is, if she ever goes dark, I mean, she's looking pretty rage protector, bit Rhino protector of her child mode here. Mm-hmm. If she ever goes dark, we're getting serious Lady Sylvanas vibes. Our favorite catch from WoW. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was kind of
don't tell us if she's ever going to go dark. No spoilers here.
Well, no. It was kind of a kicker when. I had all these drawings from when I was, I was a kid back in the 90s. And, a lot of these designs, they've been refined a bit. I reached out to an Australian artist, Zed Edge, and he helped me kind of refine some of the high school drawings into something a little more presentable. And it was kind of a kicker when, when I put out the first book and people are like, wow, there's definitely World of Warcraft influence here. And I'm like, no, this is like 20 years before, I just... Unfortunately, I can't help but avoid those comparisons. So, I'll embrace them. They're cool, and I'm happy. Like, if you're a fan of Sylvanas Windrunner and her fall from grace and stuff, I think you're gonna love this one, because not everybody's a hero that's a hero, if you know what I mean.
We like that sense of the waters of your story being somewhat muddied. I have to say that creates tensions, obviously, in the story, but as Night Follows Day, it creates tensions within the reader as well, where you're thinking, I want to like this character, but she's just done this or just done that, or the culling people of the magical population, because they don't question it, they just do it, so all of a sudden you're having this internal monologue, and that's where you want to be as a reader. If the creator's doing that, fiendishly doing that, then obviously the reader, we're going to vibe with that ourselves. Now I think we're at the point where we can show a bit of trailer. Let's see if we can do this. We've got to take off the main presentation, because and we've got to add this one to the stage. We go to the tab. This is why we need a 2 months to set up. Here we go. Yeah.
Knowledge is like a seed. When sown in fertile minds, it opens doors to new possibilities. Truth, once buried by the ages, is again revealed. The unimaginable becomes demystified. New wonders are discovered that transcend the limitations of previous understanding. However, some doors should never be opened. Our tale continues with the divergent paths of our heroes. As a naive king toils with ancient powers beyond his control, a grieving queen makes a fateful decision that forever changes their world. Infinitale Chronicles, the War of the Trees.
Wow. Do you know, it was worth looking like this in the headphones to actually hear the sound on that. The sound on that was top draw. And we have to say as well, you know, my gosh, that is who did you trail at? That you really skied it with that one, really knocked out the park. It's got that game quality. Is that because your experience with working in games? There's almost that game quality to that cinematic. It's cinematic.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I did it. That's me.
Well done. well played, sir.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, so you've got talent. You're a man of many talented hats, from the writing to the art to trailer. And I think you said you worked in cybersecurity. So you're a guy that's a creator, but you're almost like a Victorian Luvian in that you marry science with the arts. There's no distinction. You are one in the same, as Brian May once said.
Well, I mean, I try. I mean, I'm, as a UX designer, a lot of my job involves, getting data. You can't treasure what you don't measure. And I'm hoping that I can kind of leverage some of that into indie book production. At least in the sense that, I'm trying to appeal to as many people as possible without alienating core groups. It's kind of a delicate line, or very narrow line to walk.
I tell you what we like as well in that trailer. Those big eyes are gorgeous. Who's doing the big eyes, Chris?
Well, that's kind of the original, like in my original concepts, the Elvar people, the Laholsafar, the Dolkofar, the Seelie, the Unseelie. Like, I wanted to make something that was a little more distinct in our elf design than simply humans with pointy ears. And part of that is I gave them kind of almost like a cat's eye. They nictate, they do all that weird stuff, but they have much larger eyes than humans. And they say, what is it, what that expression, ad astra animus or whatever, or no, ad animus fenestra, basically the eyes are the windows to the soul. And you really want to convey emotion. Eyes are a very good a way of doing that. I mean, that's what they do in anime. They'll take a still frame and quiver eyes.
Yeah, and you know what? I wonder if that's come from you living in Japan, absorbing the manga and bringing that extra bit of eye expression to a fantasy. Rather than a typical Western approach, you've kind of gone a little bit wider. Then maybe the hair's just a bit bigger, maybe a little bit more elegant, and the colours are so fruity and rich. Tell us about the colour palette, because we've got a makeup mirror to hide our crow's feet, but also to hey, we're raised by women, we can't help it. But we with our makeup light, we give every special guest a color. We've gone for a nice greeny yellow here because one of the things we noticed as it gets darker here in Britain, you'll notice that it starts going a kind of yellowy green. It's already on the side of our head and our nose. But on your trade dress, you've got this lovely green yellow. You've got this beautiful. It's really shot off from the trailer, the cinematic trailer that you did, and you've got this beautiful trade dress. Now, some people don't ever talk about trade dress in the comics books community. We do. Tell us about the design of your trade dress.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to make a distinct branding that was something that was easy to understand. Both from a color perspective and a silhouette read. I worked with I think he was Bulgarian UX designer / a graphic artist by the name of Sergei Penchev, and he designed my tabletop role-playing game logo. And I ended up modifying it slightly to make it the Infinitale Chronicles logo. And in my opinion, I see color before I see like form, essentially, and I really, I don't know. There's an emotional level that color can kind of depict or produce. That form is more of like the left brain, whereas color is more of the right brain. And like each of the books kind of has its own kind of color scheme. Where the first book was very earthy and very green and foresty, and now we get into the second book and we're starting to escalate the war, and we're starting to see more reds and oranges. The third book will be a little different as well. But especially when we like designed the logo, we wanted to convey that earthiness of like the Elvar people, because it's their return to their heritage, being one with nature. But also at the same time contrast that with the more disruptive magical elements. So it's a loud logo in that sense, but it helps it stand out more when you're presenting like copy material or whatever, and it just kind of jumps out at you, or at least that's the attempt.
But yes, that's the thing though, isn't it? With Pixar movies, they all seem to have a distinct color palette. So what you've got here for Infinitale Chronicles is color narrative, and how you've got the basic earthy theme, but then with each issue, especially as events take a turn for greater significance and blood and death and turmoil is involved, you've got this a roiling rich kind of blood reds and various shades of these claret and blood reds as well, like scarlet and crimson. So as a writer, you've and an artist, you wear that hat of, right, how can I tell the story through color?
Yeah. It's kind of weird because like in the manga edition, it's all black and white. But we still have the color cover, like the image we're seeing here for my portrait, So I'm hoping to at least instill some of that color language, from the onset when you encounter the book cover itself.
And another thing we like actually is, again, it's pretty apparent with the big eyes we're talking about. The second thing we noticed, another thing that we look at the 5 pillars of storytelling, is cursive line quality. And you've got this expressive cursive line, You can have lines that are quote unquote super slick, but in Britain we have less of a balladic tradition as our beloved cousins in America have. We have what we call Brit grit elegance, So things are somewhat, less balladic. If you've ever read 2000 AD with Judge Dredd, I mean, things are a little bit different, And even when we had the Marvel UK reprint covers that were montages of our USA cousins, the covers would take on a slightly more rugged quality by the time all the bits have been cut out and collaged with one another. So we do like the expressive narrative of your character's cursive lines. It appeals to our Brit grit sensibilities. And an artist we used to like, he actually did the art on role-playing books, the interior art for Superior RPGs, and his name was Mike Collins. He also did the artwork for a Tom Baker Doctor Who as well, and he's got a bit more polished over the years, but we look fondly back on his RPG interior art for the campaign books. Beautiful, man.
Nice, thanks.
That's all right, it's right there. And hey, we've got you on. We've talked a lot about the art, but now it's time to get down to business. It's the Crowdfunder. Choose from 3 books or collect them all. You've got the variant covers. You've got the standard. Well, why are we saying it? You can tell us all about it, Chris.
Yeah. So we're offering 3 editions in this upcoming campaign based on feedback, because I sent a survey out to backers after the first campaign. And, I take that feedback seriously because, again, as a UX designer, I thrive off of input and feedback. And, I took some of that and said, why don't we try to address some of the negatives and kind of keep promoting some of the positives? So everything that we received kind of praise on, we've kind of amped up in this, and things that we've received negative feedback on, we've kind of gone back to the drawing board and tried to address. So what we're seeing here is we're offering in these 3 editions a standard edition, which was done by the original art team that did the first book, alternate art edition, which is the same exact story, but the interior and the cover, they're all done by a separate art team. So you're getting more of a storybook, almost a bande dessinée kind of approach, where the story is the same exact story. It's just done from a different artistic vision, done by a different art team. The first was done by Antonio Brandeo for the lines and inks and the art, and Alzir Elvez did the color. And the alternate art is done by Studio Barbusco, which is a husband and wife team of Eduardo Barbosa and Mikhail Fusco. And then the third book is my foray into the manga section. And it's kind of a trade paperback. If you missed out on book one, the manga will provide both books 1 and 2 in a black and white format that's in that smaller digest dimension, and it's read from right to left.
Read from right to left. I see. So you're actually with Team Rini in terms of having a manga edition. So in that sense, and also came in America. They almost got that kind of American approach and the Japanese approach. I mean, you think about it, manga is the biggest comic book market in the world. The other big market is America. To actually have those as the twin pillars of your Western approach and your Eastern approach, I mean, you pretty much got all your bases covered there, haven't you, Chris?
I'm hoping, I mean, ultimately this is the it's up for the backers to decide. But
yeah.
This is my kind of attempt. This is based off of the feedback that I've taken from the polls, kind of looking around, talking to people, reading these books too. Like when I first was even considering the manga edition, I went out to Amazon and bought the box set of the Vinland Saga and My Hero Academia. And I read through them all. So it's like, I want to see what they're doing and learn from them. Best mistakes to learn are from somebody else.
Absolutely. I mean, there's something, yes, it is big eyes. Yes, it is black and white. And yes, it's affordable and it's approachable. But there's some really pretty much primordial things that people are connecting with, isn't it? It's the umbilical cord from the creator to the reader is untouched. It's connection, right? It isn't the 10th person to do this who's just in it to win it or to do a job and put the prosaic preachings out to whoever listens to them. That's as close as we get to anything naughty. But what we're saying is, in manga, they celebrate the moment of time, the journey over getting there. The Eastern philosophy seems to be a celebration of the now, of the moment, and that you have the creator's vision umbilically entwined at a primordial cosmic connection level, almost like quantum spiritual magic level to the reader. So if you take to that person, and we all take to different things, Chris, but if you take to that creator for what it is, their art style, right now we have to say we're with Team Standard, and that's our first experience of you. And often we get very attached. I don't know if it's just us or any other creator, but we get very much attached to the first exposure to a creator's vision. We think, we see what they're trying to do. Even if it doesn't matter if they're 100%, we're not after perfection. We're after people who aspire to try to do the best thing that they can and learn from it and keep going. So what we like here is that you've done a three-way mirror, three-ring circus, and you're going to let your readers decide. That's so progressive. It's so clever. It's so democratic. It's so open-minded. We like the fact that you're prepared to be forged in the wild frontier of indie comics.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I've seen, especially when I was working in the video game industry, there's this like mentality of like, well, almost like the creator or the business is dictating the markets. And I'm kind of on the opposite of that, where I believe that, the customer should be the one that defines, what they like, without being, running afoul of being accused of anything. It's just you either like it or you don't, and you vote with your wallets or your wallet. And
yes, absolutely.
I've been told like I've had people review the first book, and I've had people get very different things from it, and I'm happy with that. I'm very happy where people get a myriad of different kind of I guess morals or messages or whatever. Because like I'm not lecturing. Like we were talking about the pulpit. Like this is a story. This is for you to enjoy. This is to distract you from the humdrums of reality. You know,
Exactly. And that's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't want to be reminded of the real world. We want to escape from reality, to quote a certain Queen song, you know? It's as simple as that, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. And I mean, my goal, I know this is going to sound like a really weird goal. My goal is to get readers to cry. I want people to care. I want people to care about these characters because, you know, it is kind of a tragedy in some regards. You know, there are, you know, what is it that it's not as miserable as the George R.R. Martin. You know, if you think there's a happy ending, you clearly haven't been paying attention. You know, but it's, you know, I want there to be some kind of emotional resonance. You know, either it's happiness or sad. You know.
Do you know what, you said that phrase, emotional resonance, Chris? And you know, we often wonder if you know, there is an element of attraction, of energy, of falling in love, of having your heart broken with a story, and actually to challenge. I think for a creator to challenge themselves emotionally and challenge the readers emotionally. You know what I mean? I mean, we think that shows a look to the horizon about trying to create something that's intimate and consequential and passionate. It shows belief, you know, and trust with your reader that they can handle it.
Yeah, and it's. I'm also hoping that there's at least something that appeals to you know to the readers. Like, oh, I don't like the mushiness of this, or I don't like the romance of that, or I don't like the tragedy of this. Well, there's also the daring adventure and the action. You know, we've got two stories running concurrently. You know, we've got the story of Aisling and how she's dealing with, you know, this edict thrust upon her and her kid, and then you've got this desperate father who's making pacts with ancient enemies, going off into the frontiers. You know,
I'll tell you what, that's what we're about here. So, Infinitale, then, Chronicles, Book Two's campaign features 3 books. The standard, just a reminder, our audience from the future who will be reading it in there now. Alternate art and manga editions. Whichever book is back the most is how we will proceed with future books in the series. So the gauntlet, the creative gauntlet, is down, and it's down to you readers, yes? And this will be very interesting to see how this one plays out. Now, stretch goals, Chris. Tell us about them, please, for your campaign.
Oh, yeah. So remember how I had mentioned the foreign language from earlier? Well, if we can get I don't know the conversion in pounds, but 1,500 USD to the campaign, I'll provide a free double-sided bookmark that has the decoder on the back. So if there's ever any of these people, creatures or whatever, speaking in this language, you know, the thing is you don't need the bookmark. You don't need to translate the stuff. It's kind of like in Star Wars. You don't need to understand what R2-D2 is saying or Chewbacca, but it would be nice to get like that additional level of content. Well, that's what this bookmark offers. Plus, because this book is much bigger. It weighs in at 120 pages. The manga is over 180 pages.
Whoa.
Yeah, you're going to need some place to save your spot, because sitting down for one sitting might not be an ideal thing for most people.
I'll tell you what, it's, you know, your grasp of design and from interface design and making things understandable, whether it's a bookmark or whether it's glyphs or whether it's forging magic dragon speak, you know what I mean? Defining elements of your cosmology. Oh, by the way, do you have a map?
Oh, yeah. So on the campaign, there's a canvas wall map of the continent of Foithla, which is where the 7 sovereignties of our universe take place. And Queen Aisling is the ruler of Tirigothan, which is one of those sovereignties. And we get to see kind of all the different points of interest. And as the adventure plays out, we get to see landmarks and locations that are referenced on that bigger map.
Excellent. Very good.
Sweet.
I'll tell you what, just looking at it, and to have that preview of book 3. We
Mhm.
thought that was fantastic. What an inspiring. Again, you're very progressive with your outlook. Has this come from the gaming industry, or is it just your sense of thinking you've got this vision of this cosmology and you want to have a sense of bringing people along from book 1? Yes, cultivating them in the book 2 presence, but also leading them in a gentle way towards the future with a taster of the future. Should you reach the campaign goal of $3,000, if you want the UK stuff, folks, you just take a quarter off the price to get sterling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With the first chapter of book 3 preview, I was really fortunate enough to get Miriam Nova, who is an artist, Eastern European artist, who has her she has her own indie comic series. What is it? I don't know how I could show this without being shameless, but she's got Bonds, which is a werewolf kind of manga style. She has a very Eastern. It's even though she's European, she has a very Eastern style to her art, and I really loved that. And I felt fortunate that she was willing to jump on for book 3, and possibly more. So we're going to, even though it's in black and white, because we don't have the time to get all the pages in full color. That seems to be the lion's share of production. We are able to get a nice shaded grayscale or black and white kind of sneak peek for I think it's like 30 pages you're going to get. So
that's excellent. Now, us Brits, our first experience was the Spectacular Spider-Man Comic Weekly, and it was matte color cover, cheap paper, black and white interiors with mezzotint, basically screen tones, yeah. But we did have A4, and it was big black and white as well. So your Kirby's, your John Buscema's, your Steve Ditko's, your Gene Colan's, your Gil Kane's were all in big A4 black and white. It was quite noir and widescreen, you know what I mean? Obviously, we did experience Mr. Freeze and Batman, Jim Apara's Batman with the USA DC format, but the weekly UK form, we loved it. And it was also an anthology, so you get Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Daredevil, and Thor, all in one weekly. And it was produced weekly. Because of the anthology format, they could chop it up and produce it weekly, Great stuff. So what we like here is the idea that you've got some, shall I say, noir, black and white previews in terms of your product as well. And you're projecting your reader forward in a nice way. It's past, present, and future in terms of your outlook, in terms of marketing. Is that a gaming thing, or is it just the way you're thinking? Your kind of vision is, I've got all this planned, and how can I kind of seamlessly market it?
Yeah, well, I think it's like it comes down to content is king, and I'll fully willing to admit here, I failed to keep the momentum going from the original crowdfunding completion and fulfillment of book 1. It's taken almost almost 4 years to get book 2 out, and that's why I've thrown in a higher page count. The original book 2 was supposed to be planned for like 60 pages. It's 120 pages now. And if we get the stretch goal, you can get up to 150 pages of content. And the idea is that I don't want to run into a scenario again where I have such a large hiatus. You do that momentum, and I want to keep people invested in the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's hello there, Tank. Love to see you in the chat. Just one naughty word in there. We had to delete his comment, but we welcome Tank to a chat. We know Tank for his absolutely, well, if anybody's seen his stunning Greek hero that he did for the Elysian Fields. I mean, we've been to that guy's site now 3 times, and we still can't find it. But maybe it's a top secret thing he's done for the creative Elysian Fields. But no, we like Tank's art very much. He's got a lovely expressive style, and it's allowed to like more than one thing in the indie comics community. You can engage with Chris with Infinitales. You're over to see Tank's X Space. You can enjoy that. You've got people like John Bird and Renzo Rodriguez doing his own thing. I mean, his artwork's like the sun, but everybody can do it. It doesn't have to be Team Red or Team Blue like in the corporate orthodoxy. You know, in the indie comics community, it's like, yeah, Tank's over there, Chris is over here. You know what I mean? John Boo is over there. You know what I mean? And we can it's almost like a rising tide. We can lift one another up and celebrate all boats. You know what I mean? Why can't I like Tank's Greek hero? I mean, you got to see it. I go to his site. I still can't see it. Like, where is it? Tank, by the way, welcome. Tank. Tell you what, we should be putting these comments up. Actually, here we go. I saw Aaron C. And here's another one for him. And he says he loves comics. And I tell you what, I think that's one thing everybody in the indie comics community has in common. We love comics. You know what I mean? I mean, Tank, at the beginning, we went straight in deep with Chris because we know from being Immortal Rising just how progressive and passionate was is. We actually tried to pull on the threads of nuance straight away, and we're getting really deep inside. I thought, poor guy, he's only answered one question. It's like, oh, we're getting really deep. So anybody who listens to the restream, you're getting it straight away, man. I hope you come with a crash helmet or some big ears. We actually look like Galactus when we put ourselves on the full screen. So maybe we can get away with it after all. We don't know. But no, so tell us about the mini art book, Chris. I mean, that's being a bit conspicuous here, but you've got a mini art book. What's going on there?
Yeah, that's my so the mini art book, full color, is kind of my celebration of all of the art that has been included up until this point, and a little bit beyond, for the Infinitale Chronicles War of the Trees promotional art, some of the interior like art stages, some of the kind of the inside baseball, so to speak, of how certain pages were built, a lot of promotional imagery, even some fan art. Like, I'll tell you, man, that is the most like ego boosting, you know, as somebody that's like, you know, has imposter syndrome and feels like, am I just failing at this miserably? I'll tell you, it is a huge ego boost when I see like a Twitter post or whatever, and like, hey, this is some fan art for Infinitale Chronicles, and I'm looking at another artist's interpretation of Aisling or Kaylin or whomever, and I've gotten quite a few that I'm going to include in a section in this book as well to help celebrate that.
Do you know what? We just put some onto our promo today, Chris, and we thought, you know what? We need to include this regularly as part of our New Comics promo. It says, you know what? Following somebody's free. Making a comment is free. A like is free. If you actually take the time to write a comment, that can be inspiring and galvanizing and really help an artist emotionally, or writer, or creator, get through that moment. Think, oh, somebody out there likes me, loves me. So sometimes we don't always have to have daily reassurance, but just that connection with somebody else, that spark, it's sharing your soul energy with somebody else who gets it and appreciates you. You know what I mean? It doesn't cost anything. It costs me a bit of our time, which we won't get back. Time is valuable, but it all the more when you get a comment, somebody's taken the time out of their valuable time of their life to actually recognize you, whether it's a short comment or an opus. If it's us, it's probably going to be a bit flowery and a bit more of a positive opus, but it's our way of trying to create a positive environment in the comics community. If we can't say positive, we ain't doing it. And the way we operate on social media is grace, gentleness, and generosity as our guiding stars, as we ourselves would love to be treated. Yeah. So when we see somebody who's passionately creative like you, Chris, we want to have you on the show. You're a creative leader. You're progressive. You're talented. You've got many talented hats. And the way you're Luvian, you can kind of, you have this unified creativity of science and art as one. You're almost very much in the kind of vibe of Leonardo da Vinci in a way. Do you get where I'm coming from? You know, just that kind of philosophy is very holistic. The way you approach your creativity, you know, it's the art string or the kind of interface design. All that experience you've got, Chris, is coming home to roost in this campaign. And we like the way you've learned from the last campaign. You don't want your readers who've been with you a long time to wait as long next time. And we like the fact that you're still popular, so this is your way of rewarding them. Chris, what do you think?
It's been quite the exercise when you have, you know, because this was originally written as the War of the Trees. It was like a 10-book, like 1,000-page story. We've culled it down a bit, but part of the exercise has been chopping this up into digestible bits. So the first book was actually not really a first book. It was like the first few chapters of a huge book. And I kind of just had to, drop the cleaver, chop it off. And that's what we did with the second one here. Because I sent this out to an editor, some proofreaders, and, they're reading the 60-page book, and they're like, or 50-page or whatever it was. And they're like, the feedback I got was, dude, I just waited 3 years for this. Nothing happened. Or I don't like what happened. Or, I wish more would happen. Like, it's going to be frustrating having to wait longer to figure out what happened after this. So I went back to the drawing board, moved around some scenes, and then added basically the entirety of a second book. So when the campaign launches, you'll see references to a book 2.5. That's not a separate book. That's the inclusion of more content to book 2.0. And I just put in another cover there to kind of separate the original content from the expanded. And book 3, obviously, we're adding 30 pages for that first chapter to give you kind of a taste of what's happening in book 3. And book 3, I'm hoping, will also be around 100 pages. And I know that's kind of a bad take where they're like, oh, you should probably if you're going to do Fail Quickly, do smaller, more rapidly released things. But in my opinion, like, it's all about peaks and troughs. And if the story flow feels unfulfilling, like, I want readers to pick up the book and be interested. And when they put the book down, be like, oh, I can't wait for the second book. Not like, well, that was unfulfilling.
So to create that emotional need, you have your own sense of definable flow. It doesn't matter what Team Blue and Team Red are doing in corporate world with your 20-page books on the cheapest paper and the most biggest price. What you're doing is creating a personal, qualitative project from you, Matt's personally and passionately to you. And you want to put that vessel, if it's 60 pages or 100 pages, you put it out there, and basically you create a fulfilling product, a satisfying product emotionally, that delivers as a story flow. It's all about the flow for you, yeah? And what you're doing is, by having peaks and valleys, you're letting the reader develop that emotional need. It's not like, oh, Chris is here again in another month's time, and yeah, that was kind of like so. You're creating, by having the peaks and valleys, a very cool strategy, folks. You're letting the readers have that emotional need. What do we say to that? To me, as a salesman, we've got salesman blood coursing through our veins, and we don't use our powers for darkness for some bad naughty things. We try to use it in a positive, guiding light way, yeah. And so we admire the sense of creating emotional need. It's a beautiful sales approach. We like the fact, Chris, that you're defining your own marketing strategy. What do you think?
Yeah, and again, like, I hope it's successful, because at the end of the day, it's ultimately the customer that decides. It's the backer. And
tell you what, just sorry to interrupt there briefly. You know what? You were talking about this, about getting fan art, and we think a sign that you've made it, or you're beginning to make it, or really having an impact, is when you get some fan art of Infinitale, yeah?
Oh, hell yeah.
And Tank Ferret says, I need to do some fan art of this. And we agree. Tank's art is absolutely tailor-made for this.
I
tell you, and he says he's going to fix it. And we just noticed, actually, on our X page, he's put up the Achilles drawing that he did for Elysian Fields. Just make us smile, because we've got our X pages open on the other side there, and we're just giving it. We're just admiring that. We daren't click on it, actually, because occasionally we have a memory freeze and we don't want to take down the stream. But we're just admiring it now. It's just that little space we've got for our X page. It's just looking at it, and yeah, he's absolutely skied that. He's actually, in baseball terms, he's actually knocked it out the park. Yeah, do like that. We're going to be giving you a like and a comment on that, Tank, when we get back to Xland. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. What's other thing we said here? Found highlighted. Oh yeah, he says here, found highlight and tag. We got you. We're going to put a comment in for that one. And what else is Tank saying? We'll give the chat a bit of the a hello there. Yes, good storytelling, sketches and squeezes, ebbs and flows. So he's actually agreeing with your approach there, Chris. That it feels like storytelling stretches, squeezes, ebbs and flows, almost like the hero's journey,
Yeah, Joseph Campbell was onto something.
We think so. We're just about to say you're reading our mind, Chris. That kind of you call it synaptic cord through to our brain there. We're just thinking Joseph Campbell, Hero's Journey. Right then, I tell you what, let's move on. Tell us about the war chest.
Oh yeah. So
you didn't think we would not include that in the prep? We've got to put it in. We just caught it last night. But we've got to add that to the presentation.
Yeah. So maybe this is some of the Asian or the Japanese influence rubbing off on me. But like in Japan, when you provide or present a gift or a package to somebody, like there is this sense that the package needs to be presented in a very formal way, in a way that it's not just here's a birthday present, it's in a old Walmart bag, have fun. No, they want it wrapped. There is a key component or part of that experience of owning something that includes that opening of the box, that the getting the package, receiving it, opening it, seeing it in its initially presented state, and then kind of despoiling it, opening it and pulling out the stuff and being like, wow, like this is a full experience. It's not just the core components. The quality of the products are important, but so too is the way that it needs to be presented. So what I'm doing is, in the first campaign, we actually had a shipping box that was based off of the aesthetic of the Book of Dragons. So people who backed the first campaign were like, I've had a lot of people just leave the whole box on their shelf because it looks like a book. They're like, wow, this is like a collector's box. And I'm like, well, let's go a step further and let's do that as well with the second campaign. And I'm hoping that rather than kind of replaying the same tune and making another book, I thought, well, why don't I make it more like a game box? Because a lot of that was being kind of alluded to, my video game background. So a lot of the branding is well established here with the second book, where the first was very green and earthy. The second book is, it's got this conflagration, based on elements and the escalations of the story. And I thought, well, let's call it the war chest because it's technically part of the beginnings of this war. And it's also, I kind of cheat because I use it as an inventory management system when fulfillment happens. I flip it over and I got a little checkbox of everything that's included in there. I do a double check during my inspection stage, make sure everything's in there, make sure there's no flaws in any of the stuff, put it in Mylar so it's nice and sealed. And it gives you that experience of, wow, I'm actually unwrapping a gift when you get it.
It's your birthday, it's Christmas, it's that present, no peeking, what's inside the box. It's that qualitative, holistic, cosmological experience brought to you by a guy who's used to delivering in a game environment. So that sense of expectation and delivery, planning, research and development for the cosmology, and seeing that all the way through with proper planning, inventory management, and then delivery in this final qualitative experience. It's like, just to see somebody's happy face when they open that box. I mean, it's the mother load of experiences, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to I still, I have to save money where I can, where basically I'm limiting these war chests to basically $25 or more in the backing. That's basically a book and a card or something. But the single books or whatever, I don't want to. I want to pass the savings on to the backers as well, because I mean, some people, they don't want the frills. They just get just the facts. Give me the book. So if you buy just one of the books, I'll give you the Gemini mailer, and it won't cost you, like, your shipping will be reduced, obviously, etc. But like, the more stuff you add, obviously shipping is going to become more and more of an issue. So what I've done was I said, well, on top of, obviously the shipping or whatever, like, how do I justify the shipping? Because it's ridiculously overpriced right now, and there's nothing I can do about it. I've looked everywhere, pirate ship, you name it. And I'm like, well, why don't I just give them that extra, that gift, that gift box, like you said, the birthday, the Christmas, whatever. And the people who received products in the first campaign, I pack these things for battle. There's bubble wrap, there's one of those waterproof mailers, you name it. This will also receive that as well. So when you get the nice Infinitale Chronicles tape wrapped white mailer, this will be what's inside, you know.
We like that. I mean, there's been a few actually that we've liked, and at risk of pinching a bit of Tank's name, we got the Ripper verse when it was in the sale actually, because obviously anything from the States, you've got the value of some. That's you've got a big price on the trade, then you've got a big price on the shipping. But it was $5 for the first one of that Isom one, and so we thought it's $5. So we're gonna pay for it, but through shipping, yeah. So okay, we'll take that, and it came through a fulfillment, tank proof. I mean, it's just like Cybertruck style packaging, you know what I mean? And then we also had Tyler Carpenter's Mega Fist, which just a box that came without a scratch on it, and inside it was just bubble wrap, and then the individual trades, 200 pages each, had were hermetically sealed as well. And we love the fact that you're thinking on the same lines of making sure that it gets there in blemish free. So it's all about don't accept the reader, give them the 5-star performance, you know what I mean? Almost chauffeur treatment, you know what I mean? The red carpet treatment for your fans. Yeah.
I mean, when you're backing a product, I hate to say it, but it is overpaying in the sense that you're supporting the creator, and part of that is like the reason why it's more expensive is because creators don't have the full backing of mass production or corporations or any of that stuff. So that extra payment is like the mom and pop brick and mortar shops versus the Walmarts. The reason why you can save money at Walmart is because there's all sorts of exploitative business things in there. You don't get that in a mom and pop shop. When you support those smaller shops, it may cost more, but you're directly supporting those people. So yeah, like when I'm packing this stuff up or whatever, and you're getting the crowdfunding experience, that is my white glove treatment approach.
We did notice actually, just it's something we'll be having a look at in a moment. Actually, seeing as you brought merch up, we hope you might find you'll be like the lawyer from The Simpsons a little while. You might need a window to escape. But it's your merch. We thought, go on, then we'll have a look at his merch. It's like, oh my gosh, look at all this merch, and some of it's so tasty. We thought we've got to actually touch upon it and that. So. Yeah, but we did notice actually on some of your latest shots of the trading cards that we highlighted, we did a lot of banner kind of updates for you. And I have to say, you, Chris, of Infinitale Chronicles, I think you're in with a shout of being the biggest eyeball on any promo we've done so far. You know what I mean? So you're 720 plus eyeballs, actually heading towards 800 plus. So we're sure it'd be about that by now. So you must have something, yeah.
Well, because like to contrast this with like the print on demand stuff, the retail editions essentially, like you're not going to get any of these perks in the retail edition. You're going to get a very distilled, very retail version of the book, and unfortunately, like the one that's on Amazon, for example, that's going to be determined by whatever book survives this gauntlet. Whatever of these 3 editions, whichever one gets back the most, then I will convert it over to an Amazon edition with a new cover, and then put like the thank you page on it.
I tell you what, there's only one thing we can say to that is it's a battle royale, and only one can win. So, right then, let's go to this next slide. I'll tell you what, I couldn't resist. Queen Mickey, we know what are you doing? You're driving around California or something? Are you on the West Coast or something? It's 11 o'clock or probably half 11, about 12 o'clock by now. Wherever you are, Queen Mickey, if you watch this in the future, in the present, or maybe you got it on the radio while you're, I don't know, driving or something. And she says this. Merch. This would make an excellent badge. You call them buttons in the States. So Queen Mickey's question is, the Queen Mickey badge, question mark, with this art, she says it deserves one. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, honestly, like I was considering, and I still am considering additional perks for this campaign. I mean, obviously, like I like the buttons. In fact, I've got a couple of the Blood Bond book buttons on one of my jumpers, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, if there's demand for it, like we should put a poll up.
We should put up an X poll. We should have an X poll on X.
Yeah.
The Queen Mickey badge, is it on? Yes or no? Nice and simple. And I tell you what, artwork like that surely we're voting already. So you've got to put it up, Chris. We're voting already.
Yeah.
We want to be and we'll give Queen Mickey a nudge and say, hey, you started something here.
Yeah, and I mean, I love cross pollination like that. I love getting other creators involved in this because it not only does, from a business perspective, it's like, oh well, that audience comes to this and vice versa, but I got to say, like, Miki, she was awesome, man. When the first book came out, she took a chance. It was an unproven product. She backed the book, got the one with the prints and the I think she got one of the alternate covers. I'm not sure, but she made a little video about it. And
Did she? Nice.
Yeah, and that was amazing. Like I don't know how, like, I don't think people understand how important it is for creators to get feedback like that. Like to get somebody to be like, hey, I backed this, check this out, because I feel like I'm just tossing pebbles into a well,
So what? Well, we'll talk about pebbles on the well in a minute. Devil Fly Momentum, hello, my man. Hit that like and sub to the channel. It's just like a follow on X, folks. You don't have to pay anything. It's free to do. Log it if you're logged into YouTube. Just give us a smash that like and follow, or sub button as they call it on YouTube, and help us grow. We're currently on 115 subs and counting. And it's our responsibility as well to give you content and value that you like and can relate to. The one area that we're trying to deliver consistently on before we lock in everything else is doing these live streams. We don't care whether we're like ELO, where there's more people on stage than the audience at the early part of a career. We don't care about that. We're here for Chris. And if it's one person, two person, three persons are in the chat, then so be it. And everybody has to earn the right when you go to a new platform. Just because you've got 1,000 followers on X doesn't mean you're going to get 1,000 followers on YouTube. Every medium of social media has got its own strengths and weaknesses, and you have to play to the gallery of those strengths and utilize and harness them to actually. And they've got their own tribe and their own audience as well, and with their own needs of what they want. So there is a bit of cross pollination, but sometimes you've got to think, right, what does YouTube want for us? What does Instagram want from us? What does Facebook want from us? Even Luke Stone, the stoic titan from my comic, he's just gone over on Facebook. And one of the things he asked us about, well, he didn't ask us particularly, but he asked everybody, said, which social media platform can we expand our reach on? And then we chimed in with, well, try Facebook. It's most like X's community feel, and it's plus it has a robust comics books community. And before we knew it, was over there. But then we had Bianca Yamakoshi, who was very much a kind of what you call a very savvy, cosmopolitan social media artist, comic artist, who was over there as well and helped us. We said we wanted to go on different social medias like Facebook and Instagram, and basically she helped us with a transition over there. Very warm. It's nice when you've got at least one friend over there, you know what I mean? And then we got invited to this indie comics community. You never guess who it was. Luke Stone. So you're giving him advice, and he's actually helping you get settled in on a new platform. And that's the way the networking works, Chris. To come back to your point, there you go, about pebbles in the pond. Yeah, is anybody out there? Can they hear our song?
Yeah.
hello, isn't it? Wait a minute, we've got another comment from Devil Fly. We've got a pink glove hand, and it looks like it's a little Pac-Man dolphin. Looks cool. And he goes, we've got a bit of hail, Chris and Kyle. Hail, Devil Fly Momentum, and Rex the dog. Give our love to Rex the dog. And yes, and there's Hail Rex from Tank. And Tank's getting some hails as well. There you go. Plenty of cross-pollination. Big love in the chat. Oh, just one other thing before we get on with things. Tank did say this. He said, fan art is great for advertising. People look at it and go, gee, someone took the time to draw that. I should see what all the fanfare and fuss is about. So it's a sign that you're arriving, but it's got lots of other perks and benefits too.
Yeah.
Chris, this merch, the story continues. 16 pixel standees. Tell us more. I know it's from campaign 1, and it's sold out on your website. We also know that.
Yeah, well, this is so this will be on campaign 2. These are the 16-bit heroes done by the sprite artist Nicotine Fist on X. I saw him do a fan sprite for Irene Strakolski's Fiendish, and I was like, part of my inspiration for Infinitale was the old 16-bit Mega Drive. Do you remember Shining Force back on the Mega Drive days?
I probably do.
Yeah, so Fire Emblem, Shining Force, the strategy RPGs, that was my cup of tea. I loved those games, and it kind of inspired some of the designs in the tabletop role-playing game Infinitale. And I thought, wouldn't that be cool to see what these characters would look like in that 16-bit Euro sprite style? And so we've got the the 6 heroes here and the logo for set 1. And then if you join the mailing list, there's a limited.
Sorry, you joined the mailing list. Go on.
Yeah. Oh no, so there's a limited green armored version of one of the characters that's available if you sign up for the mailing list and get the secret perk. That is not part of the 16-bit Heroes line. That's its own individual magnet. And the significance of the green armor, if you notice, there's a little bit of blood on his clethith, which is his elfin sword.
Oh, we do. Yes, looking more closely now. We see it now. I'm going to zoom in. Oh yeah, there it is. Looks like somebody's had a taste of the gift.
It's kind of you can kind of see little bits of that in the trailer there, where not all heroes are heroes, and some heroes do very villainous things.
Some heroes are naughty, folks. I know it goes against everything we believe, right, folks? Right, next slide, please. Oh yes, tell us more. More standees. Oh baby, there's trading cards.
Yep. So the acrylic standees here, we've sold out of Kalen, the fellow with the spear there, but there are still limited quantities of Ashling there. Ashling was also available in the in-demand section of the first campaign, and I just carried over whatever I had for remaining stock into the second campaign. Same thing with the trading cards. The green pack there from book 1. I think we have like maybe 10 packs left, but the orange one there, the flamey, that's going to be kind of our pack for campaign 2.
And we're like, again, the color narrative. This is book 1. This is book 2. It's what we call progressive marketing, ushering in the next wave. And then you get to the preview of book 3, you get the preview of that. We like the fluidity of it. It's almost like you've worked it out during a time away of thinking, how can we give people value, but create a seamless experience of delivery, as a core product and in terms of our marketing approach.
Yep.
Now, more merch, folks, and we've got statues.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so on the first campaign, we have the double-sided poster there that contains both Michelle Hefner's cover there, where we've got Ashling's face, and then the Genzo Man cover. These were the 2 variant covers. So it's a 19-inch by 27-inch poster, and you flip it on one side, whatever. You got both sides, and it arrives in a nice durable tube. I don't believe in folding maps. I'd rather roll them up. I'm sorry, posters. I'd rather roll them up. But unfortunately, this particular perk I can only ship domestically. I can't in good conscience charge what I am being charged for shipping to customers internationally. If I can find a loophole, I'll remedy that. But in the meantime, it is absolutely insane what they were explaining. They were giving me estimates on what a cardboard tube with the 19 by 27-inch poster inside would cost to ship, and I was like, that's more than double the cost of the poster. I can't charge people that.
And it's funny, as a creator, you've got these things. People think we're not corporate creatures, folks, in indie comics. We're actually human beings with morals and ethics. Azrael, behave yourself. But you know what I mean? It's not corporate, it's personal, So we like the fact that you're going through that rationale. And for us people at the bottom of it, we've got the rich and us. We people at the bottom are trying to get by. Think like that for our fellow brethren and our fellow fraternal sisters, It's about in good consciousness, and that's good karma, Chris, that you think like that, and it will come back to you. To me, it's the butterfly effect, isn't it? Tell us about these statues, and we like the fact that one of them's got almost like an LED kind of
Yeah,
glow
yeah.
in there. What's going on for the statues, Chris?
Oh boy, this one's going to be an interesting one. So I got into 3D printing a few years back, back in 2020, and shout out to Scotsman and Simon Poitier for getting me into it. But I started learning 3D printing through resin printing, and I also have a filament printer that does the more durable nylon FDM style printing. But one thing I noticed when I printed out these figurines was that they are extremely fragile. Like resin, I have tried all sorts of alchemical concoctions with various resins to try to make them more durable, and I just could not find an acceptable level of making them consumer friendly. So what I'm doing with these figurines is on Bancroft's channel. Hopefully this works on Bancroft's channel. But when we launch on May 23rd, the first 10 backers will receive a randomly selected one of these figurines. Either Ashling there, the Blue Wisp. There is an LED. The Blue Wisp is made out of a transparent composite resin, and the boulder it's sitting on is hollow, and there's a nice little LED light that you can slide under it in there. The other ones have NFC tags on them, so you can swipe them on the back of your phones and get little movies on them.
Movies on them. Wow, you've got quite a capable tech background to include these little kind of marketing nuances.
Thanks. Yeah. So I couldn't charge people money for something so fragile and something that I don't feel is up to quality for asking people for money. So instead I thought, well, why don't I just give them away? So again, the first 10 backers will get a randomly selected one of these heroes. And there's more than just here shown. Like I won't be giving away the glow in the dark. That's that central Blue Wisp. The glow in the dark resin one I ended up giving to one of my friends who is a player in this game. But as far as the other figurines go, including the LED ones, the first 10 backers, they'll randomly get one included in their and when I say backers, I mean like a physical book. Like if you're doing like a PDF, obviously I can't ship you something through. But so you get a nice little plastic cube with one of these inside, and almost like a mystery box, and you get and I'm hoping that I also gave them a nice little monochromatic wash, and then I made some gold accents. Like the bases are now painted with like a gold chromatic effect.
Oh, I like that. So you've got the kind of like this kind of lovely gray, and then you've got those kind of like gold highlights. That I think that will be quite effective. Yes, we can see it working. Yeah, sometimes just to lift something just a bit, you've got the nice kind of like gray, but then you go for that just that bit of lift, and almost like a trim color. Yeah.
And again, I'm hoping it's a nice little incentive, because I've noticed that on a lot of the indie streams, when campaigns launch, there's a lot of like races to be backer 1 or backer 2 or whatever. And I thought, well, why don't I just add a physical incentive for that? Like thank you for taking the initiative to be that proactive in backing me. So here you go.
I mean, it's a sense. We call it, Chris, and we've talked to other special honored guests like yourself, is allow your customers to be customers. Meet them, greet them, think about it from their point of view. Can't do shipping to UK? Offer digital then. Make it affordable in terms of accessible and affordable. If you can't do posters to the UK, can you do something else? Funny enough, Tank's got a few suggestions actually. He actually sympathizes. He says, I feel for you guys on the international shipping. That's why we've been building manufacturing distribution in the US and the UK. Indeed, yeah, it's a thorny rose to grapple with. Obviously, you want to get your creative work to people all over the world, but it comes with different shipping rates and different logistics in terms of getting stuff to customers, which can be frustrating. But we feel every indie creator, the beauty of indie comics is you haven't just got we're the big guys, we can get in bed with Amazon and we've got it all sewn up.
Yeah,
indie comics allows us to have individual business plans, as Chris has clearly got his own way of doing things here, and it allows everybody to come up with their own solutions for this particular problem, or creating, or their style, or how to market or to come up with their own cosmology. Everybody's going to have their own style. And yeah, there's going to be friction about that. And we go, bring it on. You know what I mean? That can be part of the charm of the balkanized wild frontier of indie comics, So I mean, another point that Tank makes actually says here regarding the poster issue. Tank says, plus Tapestry's War Scrolls far better than posters in his opinion. He says perhaps that's something that can be looked at, and we've certainly seen examples of tapestries and stuff like that, and duvets and people doing cushions and stuff like that. I mean, the merch frontier is possibly far greater and wider than we envisaged. And Chris is certainly very progressive when it comes to merch himself, but we feel this is an area that indie comics have yet to truly grapple with in terms of a much wider scale. I mean, some of it's tentative, some of it, like what Chris is doing, is very progressive and strong, and you can tell he will actually grow. And if there's the chance to actually create different merch, he'll be on it like all over it like a rash. You know what I mean? What else did you say? Yeah, shipping from the UK to any Commonwealth is cheaper than shipping from the US. We don't know what's going on there. It's almost like, I think you saw it during the 3 years. It's almost like the big guys looked after themselves while medium and small businesses got thrown to the wall. Now, to me, we call that, what do we call that? We call that golden furs, the polite term to use on our show. And no, but we've got, it's like mammals and dinosaurs, folks. So they're bigger. Maybe we can be smaller, more nimble. Maybe our thinking doesn't have the gravity shackles of greed and trying to own every single aspect. Maybe the big guys stop innovating. Maybe the small guys need to step up, man up, woman up, and innovate and create our own solutions. And that's fine. Let's do it then. Bring it on. Yeah. Oh, we've got another one here. Another slide. I've got to show you this, Chris. We can't help it, man. Once we saw your merch on your website, we thought we're going in. Dragons, folks, hydras.
Yeah. So the Hydra figurine is really big. That won't be included in the giveaway, unfortunately.
How many inches, Chris? We've got to interject there.
It is about 9.5, I think, from tail to snout. So,
as the Led Zeppelin song goes, every inch of my love, folks. That's a beauty. Keep going, Chris.
Well, there's also the water leaper there as a little guy. And then we've got Galinar there with the Book of Dragons on the left, and then Nessa with one of the scrolls second in. And those three, other than the Hydra, will be included in the giveaway. So.
I'll tell you what, Chris, you know what? We like with your approach for merch, you're on the edge. You've got statues. Some people are doing statues, but you have taken it to a whole level of conviction that extends from your RPG, your gaming background, creating your own version of this cosmology. You have such flow and follow through with your holistic indie comic strategy, if you don't mind us saying.
Thanks. Yeah. We are. I did leverage the FDM printer to print out a 6-inch glow in the dark nylon filament water leaper. So if you want that water leaper and you didn't get it in the giveaway, you can get a bigger one that glows in the dark. And there's also a paint kit of Nessa there, that female Carnudi there in the center. She I think she's about 9 or 10 inches.
Wow, really?
And I ended up bundling all of like the paint guide, the paints, the brushes, the what is it, the lacquer or the varnish, like the sealant, like all that stuff is included in the mixing palette in the box. So you get everything you need to paint her.
That's excellent. I tell you what, the last miniature that we got from Games Workshop, we had a friend that was into Games Workshop, and there's a lot of metal miniatures that we did. Mm-hmm. And obviously you put the primer color down, mm-hmm. but once we got to the colors, ours ended up looking like Pizza Man. I mean, it was, as an artist, it was quite humbling. It's a different type of discipline trying to paint statues compared to just doing a drawing and getting the Copic markers out, you know what I mean, and that it's like watercolor on statues, and you've got to put the primer down so the paint will take it. So, oh man, I tell you what, anybody who's going down for a box, it's the way that you include people with the statues, with paint kits and stuff like that. Your eye for detail and seeing things through to the logical conclusion. It's still like leaving the reader to ask, what about this, Chris? You've kind of thought it out to help them be a customer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that there's something for everyone. Like part of what made Infinitale Chronicles appealing, I think, was the idea that it wasn't just my story. When the original Infinitale role-playing game was created, part of that was it was collaborative storytelling. Everybody kind of had their opportunity to contribute, and everybody has their own unique way of contributing. Some people like the art way, some people like the speaking way, some people like promotional way. There's all sorts of ways that people can participate in something that makes them feel accomplished, makes them feel better for being part of this. And I'm hoping that by providing such a wide berth of perks like that, there's something in there that, again, based on the surveys that I had sent out, people are like, actually, I took the top like 5 top positively reacted to suggestions for perks, and those are the ones that are in the campaign. So
I'll tell you what, you have such an inclusive vision. You know what I mean? We think that's highly commendable, Chris. Your approach is commendable.
Thanks.
It's we like that. We occasionally say on X, we approve. Right, folks, it's oh baby time. It's the trading cards. It's a preview of 2.
Yep. Oh boy, that was a fun afternoon. So yeah, I got all of the trading cards for Series 2. There's 10 cards in the Series 2 pack, with a possibility of an 11th card. I call it the lucky card. It's probably a throwback to the old gachapon stuff that I worked on when I was doing the Japanese gaming. But the idea is that there is a possibility of one of these 11th cards in there, and it's a hollow foil card. And as we can see here in the upper right, there is a image there of one of the characters in his green armor or whatever, surrounded by flames, and it's got that nice rainbow effect of the hollow foil. And when you flip it over, in the bottom left, you see that it has one of those spell glyphs that we were talking about earlier in the magic system.
I'll tell you what, that looks. The word for that is beguiling, folks. And we must call Chris the surgeon. I mean, the surgical precision with which he's thinking about his cosmology and the nuance of how that will translate into a customer experience. You can tell he's got a gaming background, because that's all about the delivery work, long hours. To me, we did an MA in computer animation, and we used to have guest speakers come in like Lucasfilms and stuff like that, and all the crack top gaming studios when we were on our animation MA. And I tell you what, you were left in no doubt that you're going to work long hours for, let's call it reasonable pay, if we want to be polite, and that your hours would compensate the corporate studios accordingly. But it's just the expectations are there, and you're going to be working weekends, and it's just when you've come from that gaming background, you know how demanding that gaming background is. So you're used to, call it a level of creative punishment, but you're used to expectation of delivery, and that you can see you're pushing yourself to deliver that. You maybe have had your little hiatus, but it's with a view to managing that experience and delivering that experience, the standards that you set for yourself, Chris. No?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try to approach it also as a customer, like what would I want? Like, it's like there's commercials in America for the US Navy. I don't know if you know who the actor Keith David is. I did the voice of Spawn in the anime. Yeah, he did these narrations, and one of them was for the Navy commercial where it was like, if somebody wrote a story about your life, would you want to? Would anybody want to read it? And it was like, yeah. And like, and I kind of try to put myself in that perspective as a customer, be like, what would I want in addition to what I got for feedback? So they say we're our worst critics or whatever. So I'm constantly like, God, the first the first batch of those Series 2 cards, I was upset with the quality of them. Yeah, lost a lot of money, tossed them. Like, I was like, this.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't like how they came out. I didn't like, there was just print flaws on them. And yeah, so I tossed them. So that was why I've done a second batch here. And I thought, well, how else could I sweeten the pot? And I was like, well, I do have some of this promotional art around. And I think it would be kind of cool to see what some of these magic runes or these glyphs would look like, with a hollow foil effect to them. So I made very limited edition special lucky cards.
Yeah, it's interesting that you shared an example there of an experience that didn't go well and that you improved on as a creator. You've learned, because obviously you want to pass on the improvements and benefits of your experience of getting better experience and pushing for better experiences with your audience. Is there anything else you can share in terms of your feedback? Obviously here we're less concerned about dodgy comments or people who are unkind, but are there any well, we think a creator knows. You don't have to tell them. I mean, it's nice to have feedback, but there's a certain way you deliver feedback, isn't there? You certainly don't put the boot in when a creator's in their moment of triumph and they've had a good sales day or stuff like that. There's a way of shall I say, taking feedback from a well-meaning customer and turn that around into a positive as you do. Positive as you do. Is there anything else you can share in terms of feedback, but obviously without any sort of drama type stuff?
Oh yeah, well, I think I've been pretty much numbed to negative feedback. You got to separate yourself from your work. When I for example, when I was doing the tabletop role playing game back in the day, and I was beta testing these these players to learn my to basically learn how to build my game, I got all sorts of very honest, very candid, very incendiary feedback. And there's nothing cuts deeper than the brutal honesty of children. So
yeah, well, they are what they are, aren't they? You know what I mean? They'll tell you straight. You know what I mean? And regarding issue 1, is there anything from issue 1 you think we've learned from? I don't know, the production, or there was feedback on the art. I don't know, the story, or is there anything that you can show where you think, right, we've learned from that and we've kind of taken that into 2?
Oh, definitely.
That's actually a positive in a sense, because you've come back with a much more holistic viewpoint of your product, which you can pass on to the reader from the feedback.
Yeah. Well, again, part of the reasoning for the alternate art edition was because we received feedback about art. And for example, some of the feedback was, how come the characters in the book don't resemble the promotional material?
All right, so it's gone.
Yeah, so we had a conversation with the art teams, and we're like, look, this is, how you have the 5 pillars of storytelling. Well, this is one of the pillars that we're going to have to present our product with. Like, we have to have consistency, branding consistency, and we're going to have to go through. And if something doesn't look like it did in previous pages, or didn't look like, it was part of it. Like, if you can't look at it and go, oh, that's Kaylin, or oh, that's Ashling, then that's a problem and we need to address it.
And because obviously that takes the reader out of the convincingness of the cosmology, yeah? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what level the art is at on its journey. We don't mind at the 5 pillars of storytelling that if your art's here, wherever that means, wherever you are in your footprints in the sand, we don't care about that. If you're a 13-year-old artist and you've got this monster Hulk guy that's going to tear my head off and give me a good story, I don't care that your art is developing. I'm not bothered about that. I want to see a kind of almost a consistency or aspiration to a consistency of approach that you care passionately. And and issue by issue, you'll see that. And we're seeing from Infinitale Chronicles 1 to 2 that you're pushing for that consistency. That's the feedback. Yeah.
And again, I put this through a gauntlet of proofreaders as well, and I've learned never use your friends for proofreading, because they generally put on the kid gloves and make it a little less like when you need the tough love. And I have a former coworker who is not shy about his language and how he cuts into things, but at the end of the day, it's about business. It's about getting customers what they want. And you know how they say an opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. I don't want people to be indifferent, and when I have somebody that gives me negative feedback, that means they're still emotionally invested enough in this product to tell me what they think of it.
To which we say amen. Indifference is the death of indie comics, yes?
Yeah.
And what we've got very much in the comics, we talk about this friction that we think is a good thing, is that you've got different people who actually do care, regardless of their points of view. You don't have to agree with everybody. It's like you go to a party, you don't chat to everybody. Not everybody you'll chat with for a few minutes, or some people will look at somebody else and look like they're kind of looking at the clock while it's all of that, isn't it? I mean, you go to a party, you go to the things you like, whether it's a football match, you go to your local comic shop, or even within comic shops, you'll have your favorite comic shop that you go to, where you can chat about whether the Hulk or the Thing is stronger and have an argument for half an hour. It's all of that. If you can get a better comic shop experience, you'll probably drive 15, 20 miles to get one, rather than one that's close by. It all depends, doesn't it, on the chemistry, you know?
Yeah.
You know, birds of a feather flock together. But just one question here from, I think I did say I'd put Tank's question up, is what scale are the figurines? He was concerned. He wanted to know about that.
Well, they're not. So they're about. I think they stand about 4 inches, or at least. I had the scale term, but I haven't scaled them yet for like official game pieces. They're considerably larger than like your 26 millimeter gaming miniature, or your 35 millimeter. I can't remember what they've changed them to. I'm an old school. I go back from Raul Partha back in the day when they were like under 25 millimeters. But yeah, I'm not sure what the exact scale is, but they're about 4 inches tall, if that helps.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that about 4 inches tall on average? And then depends on the others. Sometimes you get special edition ones that might be tall. Depends on the character as well, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, these aren't really game pieces. They look like chess pieces, but they're more just decorative. And they have the little NFC chip in their base, and you swipe it on the bottom of your phone, and you get a little movie.
Do you know what? You just made us think chess set merch. You've also, from earlier on, given us a nudge that other thought we had while you were talking about RPG background experience, producing your own RPG box. Collaborate with John Boer of John's Unbox. He's crazy. He's cracker about games and RPGs as well. He has a gaming session every Sunday with his mates. It's really sweet to watch. We're thinking, that's his outlet. He's been working as construction work all week, and he's blowing us some steam with his buddies, buddy talk and buddy type things,
Yeah. Well, hopefully after I get the War of the Trees published, if I'm still alive, I'll try my hand at. Yeah. I mean, I hope I can get the the tabletop role playing game system out there. Like introduce them to the world with the War of the Trees, and then be like, okay, we've told you about the history in the world. Now here's the game. Make your own stories with it.
Now that sounds cool. To me, it's like, there you go. Here's the ball. Take it and run, son. I like that. Tell you what, we had to look at those holo cards. We just couldn't not include them. Chris, tell us about them. Radiant Glory. Oh,
yeah. So the upper left one there is of Nessa. That one is a mailing list perk. If you sign up to the mailing list before our campaign launches on May 23rd, you'll get an email with secret perks, and some of those secret perks will have this card bundled in as a bonus for free. You're not going to pay extra. In fact, you might actually pay a little less. So there's that. And then the upper right card was a free X follower when I reached 1,000 followers on X. That's a drawing of Queen Aisling that I got the original. Like that was actually sent to me by Nerium as a physical image. Like that's generally my artist's work, purely in digital, but this is a legit physical one. And then I colored it and made a card out of it, and I gave that away to several followers on X. And then
go on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and then the one in the middle was a stretch goal from the first campaign that was done by MR Gun Art. That was again free. Like you don't have to pay for that one, or you didn't have to pay for that one. I will be providing those as part of legacy perks that you could buy if you missed out on the freebie. And then the bottom right one, which is also of Aisling, that is a collaborative work from Pau Rodrigues of Genuine Comics Fan, who did the art.
Yeah,
he did the art for Perfect 10.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah, this was part of a special free commission perk, or not a free commission, as a bonus commission perk. So Pow sent me or I should say Dave sent me Pow's line art. So I colored it, and then I applied a background to it from my concept artist Zedge, and that will be part of the early bird perk. Again, free. Backers who back within the first 7 days of the campaign after it launches will get that at no extra charge. And then finally, the risque one in the bottom left is done by Din Money, who is he's a game developer. He's got several games on. He's an artist and game developer. He's got several were they visual novel games, risque style games on Steam. And I got this awesome image of him after read one of the scenes there with Aisling. In her birthday suit.
Quite so. Yeah, and what we like is that it's just, you get experience, you're professional, you make connections, you aim for being professional, you treat people with respect as best you can, by projecting your professional out there. And the karma you put out there is the karma you get back. And then you get connected with good quality artists, Chris, that are used to being professionals themselves, which all helps give you variety with your merchandising, pushing that quality envelope to get customers to go, Chris is the tip of the spear of a quality cosmological vision, and he treats his customers with enough respect to aim. No, it's not about being perfect, but it's about aiming for that simple sophistication of vision, of quality, that cosmology, that vision, and getting it out there in a way that allows your customers, again, we say it again, to be customers.
Yeah. What is that saying? A wise man seeks perfection his entire life. Only a fool expects to find it.
And indeed, quite so. And you've got a compliment here from Tankfurt, who knows a thing about a bit of art himself. He says those are amazing. He really appreciates the art on those. And tell you what, the kind of rainbow hollow thing, to me, we just love it. We absolutely do. Now, what have we got next? Right, mailing list. You mentioned it earlier, and we thought, no, we've got it covered, Chris, in the back of the show.
Yep. Yeah. This illustrates that card that I was talking about earlier. There, that's the hollow foil card of Nessa, and she's included for free with these secret perks here. You'll note the secret perk by the little banner there on the upper right, along with the little card representation. So when you get these links in the email after the campaign launches, you'll know which ones are the secret perks because it'll both be labeled and there'll be that visual indicator, and you can expect that card for free.
And it's all, again, the thing you were talking about earlier was crowdfunding. It should be, it might be a little bit more, but you're part of, you're exclusive on time and space. You're going to get it before anybody else, before Amazon, You're exclusive in terms of a qualitative premium merch experience and getting access to things you just won't get access to later. So it's all a sense of, yes, it helps the creator reap some rewards of a quality creative vision, but it also, that's a two-way street. It rewards the readers in terms of sharing that qualitative experience. The creator's giving you the very value-added and quality merch experience you're after. You want it from the big guys. This guy, he may not be Galactus in terms of a corporation, but he's got an intimate, personal indie comic vision that he will sell you through being well connected and finding the best solutions to deliver that vision through his frontier pushing business plan.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely under the philosophy of gratitude over entitlement. Like, I know this is this is a lot of money, $20 or whatever, especially during these economic times. Like, so I don't feel entitled to people backing. But the people that do back, I am extremely grateful, and hopefully I can show that gratitude in more than just hollow thank yous. Here's a card. Here's some additional incentive to show that I'm a nobody. I have an unproven product. I'm not a big corporation. I'm just one guy.
Do you know what, Chris? The one thing we picked up on you when we realized that's Infinitale. You've been right next to him for the last hour and you didn't realize who it was. And we thought, what we liked about you was the sense of humility, despite your capability, your holistic capabilities and your experience. What we like about you as a creator, and we see those people who practice it. We even have now we've finally mastered archiving on X. You put things in folders online. We have a folder for special comments and gratitude, and creators who practice gratitude. We're not trying to use it. It's not holding it against them, but it's you gravitate. Well, we do. Creators who have gratitude and express it and can relate to other people as they themselves like to be treated in a humane way, and trying to, be a decent human being and saying thank you. Please. It's some people, I don't know if it's got to be the fashion these days. It's almost not sexy to say please and thank you anymore as an adult, too cool for it. But good manners, we don't think in terms of our upbringing, built up in the kind of bronze era of comics. We'll put it politely, we stopped counting at 29. We don't look too bad for 29, I tell you folks. But what we're saying is, people who are humble and have that gratitude, it's attractive. It's a turn on for the customers. We're thinking there's a guy that respects himself and the people that brought him up, and respects potential customers because they're watching too. If they see you kicking off in drama every 5 minutes, what does that radiate out to potential customers? So that sense of gratitude, I think, is a very important word for us. It's probably the one word that makes us think we'll keep an art creator. They're a decent person and they've got good manners.
Thanks. I hope I have those. All I can do as a business person is ask. I can't tell anybody anything.
Original art, Chris. We couldn't find any, so we thought we'd ask you.
Yeah, so like I was saying, the only piece of original art that I have that's physical, was Miriam's gift to me of that Ashling there crying over the loss of her kid. That now hangs on my wall of art prints. I don't think I could ever part with that.
No, keep that one, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad in the sense that I work, or at least my artists work, almost exclusively in digital media, because I can't, I can only provide prints. I can't provide original, you can actually get the texture of the paint to canvas. I just don't have anything like that, and unfortunately, my art or my artistic skills have kind of disappeared. I ended up getting something called basically peripheral neuropathy in the hands. So I lost use of my hands fully. So I can't draw anymore.
Sorry to hear that, Chris. Sorry about that.
Well, it happened like almost a decade ago. So the sting has dulled somewhat, but it means that I have to rely on others now. And unfortunately, the people that I rely on, it's digital, and I work with an international team. I have people in Eastern Europe. I have people in Asia. I have people in South America, Europe, or Portugal. And it's like, hey, do you want to ship this super expensive piece of paper over to me so that I can ship it to somebody else? So unfortunately, yeah, no original art. Sorry, that was a very long-winded way of saying.
No. Well, look, we're sorry to hear that with your hands and that you can't do the art so much. But you know what? You didn't go down and curl into a ball on the floor. And that's what we like about you. You're a fighter. You thought, well, how can I get around this and still see out my vision? You know what I mean? And project that vision. You can still write. You can still tell your story. You can still hire artists. You can try different artists and see which one will win out in terms of the interpretation of your vision that the reader will decide and be compelled towards, and they might go, yeah, we like the manga edition more, or we like the standard edition, or we like the art team in the middle. That one's maybe the Goldilocks sweet spot in the middle, the comfy chair, the comfy bed, the porridge temperature that is just right. It's all that, isn't it?
Yep.
Right then, okay. Will I like Infinitales? Well, I'm getting the feeling we're going to, and it's coming from Amazon. We can't wait to read it. To me, it's coming. I think we'll have it by about, is it Monday? And Radiant Black by about Thursday or something like that. But we're looking forward to it. Will I like Infinitale Chronicles? Ask the reader. And who's it for? Is it for them?
Yeah. So this was this is like business 101, like define your audience. And my audience, I worry. Like I hope I'm aiming at the right demographic or whatever. But I started this story when I was about 12 to 13 years old, back in the early 90s.
Really, that far ago?
Yeah. This
Oh.
was this again. It was started as a fantasy role playing game, tabletop, with my friends, and we started chronicling the sessions. Went to the Pelham Public Library. We were, before the ages of Google. We're talking, the Paleolithic period. I had to, plumb the depths of the library to get all of my information, and that's where the stories came from. And it's weird because, like, I have seen reviews of book one, and the interpretations of people vary dramatically across the board. I've had some people say, "Oh, this is very like Logan's Run." If you've ever read that book or seen that movie.
Oh, Logan's Run. Just Agatha.
Yeah. Oh God, Jessica Six. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So there's people who see that. There's people who see it as an allegory for like oppressive governments. There's people that see it even as like a child being forced to leave the nest, to be an adult for the first time. So, who the actual target audience is. When I went to the Granite State Comic Con here in New Hampshire, I found something really odd where really young people picked it up, and people my age, 50 or older, picked it up. So I don't know if there's a single demographic that I could pinpoint and say this is for the 18 to 24-year-old male demographic, or this is for the young adult demographic. I think different audiences will get different things from this.
And that's very good, isn't it? It's almost a tapestry. And that you're not going to be a one note or two note target audience, are you? And why not let that evolve and find out? Isn't that going to be part of the fun of Infinitale Chronicles as you step into book 3 and beyond to the preview of 3, and going almost coming full circle with a potential RPG game, gaming top, which that's getting quite big. So that might augment your comic audience as well. And because games and comics, there's great cross pollination now. Everybody wants to make an indie comic, even from the gaming side of things, and we would say actually to revel in that moment of finding out who your target audience is. You might have an idea that it's epic fantasy, bit of Lord of the Rings, and a bit of manga, but let's find out, see where this thing goes, and that might be part of the joy of what you're doing,
Yeah, I've had people who were strictly science fiction read it and say, wow, like if this is what fantasy is like, it's almost like their introduction to it, because they were turned off by Tolkien or they were turned off by Dungeons and Dragons, and they're like, wait a minute, is this what was here? It's like, yes, a good story transcends genre.
And also you made the point earlier about maybe with those things you mentioned, one requires a kind of a prosaic, elaborate understanding of a professor's language. The other one requires the mechanics of a gaming system. And we have done RPGing, but we were okay with rolling a character sheet and creating a background and drawing a picture of our character. We're okay with the idea of being a GM and doing the adventures and using our imagination, no problem. But the actual mechanics of an RPG system for Dungeons and Dragons, for some people, might be a barrier. And earlier you said, just to prove we were listening with our Galactus headset, was that you enjoyed the direct version to actually create more of a direct flow in the river of the Lord of the Rings story, that interpretation. And perhaps maybe this is your version of a fantasy, which is a bit more direct. And with the wide eyes being the windows of the soul, maybe you're taking more direct line to the windows of your audience's soul.
Yeah, hopefully, like I was saying earlier, like my goal is is for that emotional resonance. I want people to put down the book and still think about it after they put it down.
Absolutely. Now, 3, why do you create indie comics? And we've got the feeling that your journey began with all that RPG stuff you do with your mates, and this is like an interpretation of that. Like John's Longbox himself used to have RPGing with his mates long time and all that business, and then he's kind of put it into heroic tales and that, and he's just launched with his own number 2. So you're in parallel lockstep in a different dimension to John's Longbox, but it's interesting that we both coming out with your issue 2s just now, and you get it's funny how you get lots of those parallel worlds vibing at the same time. It's almost like some cosmic rain dance. We love it. When you watch it from where we are, I'm thinking, oh, it's like being in a sweetie shop. It's like being in a kid's candy store. And we're thinking, which one? They're all on the consideration list when you come down to it. Yeah. So why do you create indie comics? Is it about the control, having the slide rule, crossing T's and dotting I's control over that overall sense of production, and then being able to carry that vision out as you intended?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, I find it as like, it's my own kind of, shouting into the void, like we're all just trying to be heard and seen, and this is my story, and I hope that, I hope the story is entertaining enough. I hope it resonates with people. I hope that, there's somebody out there that says, wow, like this was a pretty good story. Like this was something that, I would want to see in other media, or this is something I want to tell other people about,
Yeah.
So
and that's it, isn't it? You want to know, is there somebody out there? You know what I mean? Can they hear my song? Can they hear our song? Yeah, we want that. Now, look, we're getting to the last few slides of the show. What advice would you give aspiring creators? And this show, we listen, we learn, and share. You're a resident expert, special and most honored guest, Chris, of Infinitale Chronicles. What advice would you give to aspiring creators? Because in the 80s, we had nothing. Now we're living in the age of Star Trek technology with people like Steve Rude of Nexus actually showing you how he does his fine art and Nexus art actually online. I mean, what would your advice be for people who are creative younglings or adolescents that want to follow in maybe their creative parents' footsteps?
Well, I definitely did all the things you're not supposed to do. So, well, they say learn from others' mistakes. Those are the best ones to learn from. For starters, I would say manage your scope. If I would have done this all over again, I wouldn't have had a grandiose epic saga of 10 books. I would have done more like Michael Bancroft, I think, did a perfect way of getting into comics, where he started on like webtoons.
Go on.
Yeah, and he did very bite-sized, very it's that fail quickly mentality, the fail fast.
One panel a day, bang, bang, beat of a drum.
Yeah, and that's how you can gauge your interest. Is you're putting out this artwork instead of investing a whole bunch and then dropping it out there and nobody cares. You're putting out a panel or a page or whatever at a time, and you can course correct a lot easier than if you did this one big bang. And he did that. He built himself up. He built an audience of everything. And by the time he launched the Lucent, his first book, they
were ready for him.
Yep. Yeah, there was already an audience there. And like we were talking about when would be a good time to launch this book, and he's like, well, we need to get it into the people's minds first. Like if we just come out of nowhere, surprise, you're not gonna get that same level of hype or that same level of interest if you at least don't have, if you have momentum building up to it, you're going to get a bigger payoff than if you were to just be like, surprise, here's my book out of nowhere. So
and then it's crickets chirping because it might be good, but people aren't aware of it. They haven't grown with you. They haven't gone on the emotional journey of suffering with you. And we believe that creativity is suffering. We call it creative suffering. Yes, suffering.
Yeah, you do have to be a bit of a masochist to be an indie creator.
Very true. And we think there is that to it. And why not let your creative reader rock on with you to cheerlead you on? It's like being the band that isn't famous yet, and you're in the ground floor and think, these are so cool, they should be earning millions, they should be at the top, and then become stagnant and millions go through the maturing period. But no, I mean, but to be there on the ground floor of a band, that raw seminal gestalt that you think, oh, we're in, it's like a shared secret. and to let your reader go on that journey with you, rather than excluding them, A tank says here, shipping by boat is the most efficient method of transportation, but the burdens placed by governments are outrageous. Well, yeah. We don't know if this is collusion to keep the corporates, to give the corporates even more profits and more thrall and more lobbying, and it becomes a vicious feeding circle to keep us aspiring little guys out the water. It's like sharks and us little minnows, I mean, we know it, we hear it, we just got to find correct solutions around it. And we know one guy that's going to try his goddamn best, and that's Chris with Infinitale Chronicles. Absolutely. Right then, we've got another one for you. What superhero would you be? Nice, easy one.
And let's see, superhero that I would be. Well, most superheroes are tortured. Like, none of these superheroes have a good life. Like, you look at Spider-Man. I would not wish to fate on my worst enemy.
You wouldn't wish his life on somebody, would you?
Yeah, well, Wolverine is in constant agony. Spawn went to hell. I mean, yeah. I don't know, maybe Booster Gold.
We appreciate your candor and sense of irony in that answer. We like that. Booster Goldie, at least you'll have a happy life full of joy and happiness, If happiness is a process, then Booster Gold is not only is he loaded, but he seems to be enjoying every day whatever it is he's doing. Not sure if he's an actual superhero, but I know he hangs around Blue Beetle a lot. But okay, enough. Booster Gold, we'll take that. I think we think that's an excellent answer. Right, bonus questions, not too many. Oh, what are your future plans for Infinitales Chronicles going forward, Chris? Well, you kind of told us a bit about that. We're getting 2 soon on May the 23rd, and then book 3. What's the future?
So I'm hoping to complete the entire War of the Trees saga, all 10 books. There's a second saga, Empires of Ruin, but I'm not sure if I'm going to put that out before or after. I have the opportunity to put out the self-publish the TTRPG. The role-playing games, like here, like a lot of people, I was talking with Aaron there from Immortal Rising. He's like, dude, you should just totally get that out there and everything. And it's like the amount of work is exponentially larger in a game versus a graphic novel. And like as it is, it's taken me, with all of the interesting hardships and the tribulations I've had to endure with book 2 to get that sucker out. I could only imagine that would be like multiplied if I did that with the role-playing game, because you got to get the figures, you got to get the play testing, you got to make sure like it's more than just a book. You have to actually get a solid game framework. And I grew up in the with RPGs in the 90s, and I've seen what happens when some of these games get released.
It's ruthlessly competitive, isn't it? It's got to be authentic. You're dealing with a hardcore gaming logic, authentic fan base. If you're going to put that out there, it's going to take a lot of debugging, and R&D testing. Go on, you call it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like one of my favorites. Like I loved White Wolf back in the day. The Vampire the Masquerade, Mage the Ascension, Werewolf the Apocalypse, the whole World of Darkness stuff. But it was so easily exploitable. And as a game designer, I've had a decade of people going, oh, that's a great game design idea you got there. Sure would be a shame if somebody exploited it like this. And then like your whole game just blew up,
And then once it blows up, all that hard work's blown up as well. So you can understand it, now that we have games on computers, how that somebody puts the game back by a year, because it only takes. I remember, well, back in the day, we used to play Baldas Construction kit, and it was our favorite character was Rockford. Forget about Super Mario, folks. Rockford's where it's at with his blinking eye and his tapping foot. Back from the 8-bit era, the 8-bit wars, that we're a grizzled veteran of stuff like that. And we were a Commodore 64 player, and the Baldas Construction Kit allowed you to create your own Baldas games. Basic Balderdash is dig the mud, push the boulders, collect the gems, get out of the cave before the timer runs down to 0 as you lose the life. Now, we created our own caves. We created about 40 or 50 of them before the tape actually snagged. But we took the tape to our friend's house, and we'd spent hours on this game cave, with loads and loads of jewels and diamonds to get, but how to get into it, And we thought there's no way they'll figure out this elaborate maze that we've established for them to get to it. Our friend at the time, all he did was went blink to one side. The boulder dropped out of the access point that we didn't spot, and he was straight into the mountain of diamonds and went straight to the cave exit straight away. And what does that tell you? We understand your fear, Chris.
Oh yeah, I remember when I was working on that Defiance game, we did these like little side mission things, these like little activities to pad out the content. And we had one where it was like you're shooting chickens, and you had to shoot so many chickens on posts or whatever within a certain period of time. And periodically there'd be this crowd of chickens that would spawn, and you could shoot as many as you could to like get bonus scoring or whatever. And I accidentally, when I pushed it to the release build, I accidentally unchecked the box that said when it spawned, instead of having the chickens spawn in an array, so they like spawn randomly within a radius, they all spawned literally on top of one another. And it would just be like one chicken spawned and then ran, and somebody shot it and got like 1,000 points because there was like 1,000 chickens in there. And I watched I watched a video of it during the beta test. And one of the beta testers was like, all sorts of harsh feedback or whatever, but like they did that, and I'm just like, oh,
all that work for nothing. But it's that without that editor's eye, without it being play tested, you can't see it, can you? And then all of a sudden, somebody who is your editor who play tests it just blows it apart. Tank Ferret here. Street Fighter RPG was weak, while Wolf. There you go.
Oh yeah.
He knows his stuff. Right then, we have got another question for you, and it's a dead easy one. Favorite pizza?
This is gonna sound weird, but I am more of a vanilla kind of guy. I like straight pepperoni.
Okay.
And when I worked in California, I don't know what pizza did to Californians, but coming from the East Coast of America, like going to California pizza, we had stuff like aubergine and couscous pizzas. And I was like, what did you do to pizza? What did it do to you to deserve
aubergine pizzas? Not having that one. I mean, right now we could eat our own left hand. It looks like a right hand, actually, because we're mirrored. But we could eat that right now. But you know what? We ain't eating any aubergine pizzas. And couscous? Yeah. What you say?
Yeah, so when we had our crunch times, we had like this 9-month window of working like 90-hour work weeks. Like it was literally show up at work at like 9 o'clock in the morning and leave at like 3 in the morning. And the company,
the bodies get carried out on stretchers.
Yeah, well, the company thought that they could compensate us by giving us pizza. Like that will apparently make everything go away. All the work-life balance issues. No, you get a pizza. And unfortunately, the producer, she ordered like 1 or 2 like cheese or pepperoni pizzas, and then like 30 of these like aubergine and couscous and like anchovy, like all sorts of things that like most people don't like.
All the stuff we love to eat.
Yeah, and like I just remember after like the 3rd week of showing up and looking at these empty boxes of the normal pizzas and then finding these gross like crimes against food. And I was just like crying like the fat kid who got outrun by the ice cream truck. I was like, yeah.
So, I'll tell you what, you're 9 hours on overtime, from 6 o'clock when you should have left till 3 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we were doing animation, and we thought there's no way we're going to have a career in this. And, it's a very expensive MA for that to realize that conclusion,
Yeah. Yeah, well, I made sure that I was first in queue when, like, after that 3rd week, I'm like, I'm getting that pepperoni pizza.
Yeah, I'm getting that, or I'm going to eat somebody's hand who tries to stop me getting that. Right, number 8. Here we go. We were swiftly on from that pizza. We've not had a nuts like that before. We're waiting for somebody to clip that one. We might even clip it ourselves, actually. See if it goes viral. Anyway, Infinitale Chronicles 8. Final question for you. Where can they find out more info?
Oh, sure. Yeah, if you head on over to infinitale.chronicles.com, we've got a website set up with all the latest information. There's a news section that's got all the latest blogs. They're periodically updated. There's a nice little lore section if you want to learn more about the world and universe. And then the crowdfunding section will direct you to our pre-launch and then our actual campaign page when it launches.
Yeah. Tell you what, you've got all the communication stuff there, folks. The website is a recommended, shall I say, destination. A mere hyperlink away to say big thanks to Tank and Chat. Thank you for that. And on next slide here, we'd like to say, Chris, you have been authoritative. You have battle-honed experience. You have what we like is your formidable, holistic sense of taking that step back with a little mini hiatus and thinking, how can you deliver that vision? You've got a formidable sense of marshalling all your resources, harnessing your talents, and projecting it out to a strategy going forwards to your target audience, which is developing as we speak. So I want to thank you for being our special guest, Chris. We wish you well and Godspeed for Infinitale Chronicles and for the Michael Bancroft launch on the 23rd of May. Yes, on his show, yeah? Live launch.
Yeah.
So we say, please like, comment, and subscribe to Chris and Infinitale Chronicles on X. Check out his crowdfunder. Check out the Michael Bancroft live launch on the 23rd of May. It's really getting to the point where it's imminent. And we would say, please like, comment, and follow us here on YouTube at the 5 Pillars of Storytelling, so we can bring more content with our resident experts and our honored guests on the show tonight. It's been a pleasure and an education, really, and reassuring to our own thoughts, for our own, shall I say, distillation, to borrow your word, of projects in the 5 Pillars of Storytelling works. So, Chris Fisk, it's been a pleasure, and God bless you, sir. I think it's now time. Well, we'll let you say what you want to say now, but to me, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. That's all we can say with Galactus headphones.
Well, thank you for having me. I had a blast. This was great.
No problem. I'll tell you what we're going to do now. We're going to add this to the stage. And Chris, we shall see you on the battlefields of X and have a little look at your pending crowdfunder on Indiegogo and at the live launch. Right.